education. We have our Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, who's been so incredible over the last few weeks. I've been watching her on television. I'd like to tell her she could do better, but she can't. She can't do any better. So I want to thank you, Linda. Fantastic. And we also have Commerce, and we have Labor with us today. And you have been, thank you very much. And Howard, thank you very much. And we'll take some questions after we're finished. Maybe I'll ask Will to step forward, and you can go through some of these. Also, Lindsay, you work with Will, two very talented lawyers, as you all know by now.
Thank you, Mr.
And
President.
we'll go through them. And Linda, why don't you come over here? In fact, one of the three of you come over here.
We also have a special guest with us today.
Oh, that's right. Annette Albright. Where is Annette? Annette Albright. Charlotte Mecklenburg, school teacher. Very special one. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have you. You've got all sorts of awards for talent. That's good. Thank you very much for being with us. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, please.
Sir, the first executive order we have prepared for your attention, there are currently laws on the books requiring certain disclosures of universities when they accept large foreign gifts. We believe that certain universities, including, for example, Harvard, have routinely violated this law, and this law has not been effectively enforced. So this executive order charges your departments and agencies with enforcing the laws on the books with respect to foreign gifts to American universities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We'll put it right here.
Next for you, sir, university accreditation is currently a process controlled by a number of third-party organizations. That's by statute, by law. Many of those third-party accreditors have relied on sort of woke ideology to accredit universities instead of accrediting based on merit and performance. This executive order affects a number of changes to the university accreditation process, also applies to law schools and other sort of graduate programs. But the basic idea is to force accreditation to be focused on the merit and the actual results that these universities are providing, as opposed to how woke these universities have gotten. So we're setting up new accreditation pathways. We're charging the Department of Education to really look holistically at this accreditation mess and hopefully make it much better.
Will we look into the past people that they've taken? For instance, I hear all about certain grade schools, and then we read where they're going to teach people basic math that we can all do very easily, but they can't do. They're, going to the top school, and they come out with a program teaching basic math to somebody that got into a Harvard or a Princeton or a Yale. Is that part of this?
When universities are not performing appropriately, whether that's in admissions or whether that's in their actual instructional activities, that's certainly something that accreditors should be considering. That right now we believe they're not doing a good enough job of, and I think Secretary McMahon can probably speak to that better than I could.
So they're allowing people into school that can't do math, and yet kids who worked really hard and number one in their class in a high school someplace in New Jersey or in Mississippi, they can't get into the best schools. What is that all about?
Yeah, and I think that gets to your policy, sir, of meritocracy, that we should be looking at those who have real merit to get in, and we have to look harder at those universities that aren't enforcing that.
Okay, thank you. And this pretty much does it, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, during your first administration, you made promoting historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, a major priority. This executive order takes existing law on HBCUs and brings it into effect. We're going to be setting up a White House initiative on HBCUs. The basic idea here is making sure that every aspect of your administration is working to ensure that HBCUs are able to do their job as effectively and as efficiently as possible. This next executive order relates to artificial intelligence education, sir. You've obviously done a lot in the artificial intelligence space already. The basic idea of this executive order is to ensure that we properly train the workforce of the future by ensuring that school children, young Americans are adequately trained in AI tools so that they can be competitive in the economy years from now into the future as AI becomes a bigger and bigger deal.
That's a big deal because AI is where it seems to be at. We have literally trillions of dollars being invested in AI. And somebody today, a very smart person, said that AI is the way to the future. I don't know if that's right or not, but certainly very smart people are investing in it heavily. Good. Okay.
Next, sir, we have an executive order on workforce development. This executive order is going to charge numerous departments and agencies within the government to reshape the way that we do workforce development. One example from the executive order, for instance, we're looking to get the total number of apprenticeships, new apprenticeships, up to 1 million in the country to ensure that in critical jobs areas, in areas where we currently don't have enough trained workers, that we're recreating that pipeline to ensure that, particularly as we onshore industrial jobs and new industries, that those industries have the workforce they need to be competitive globally.
Right. Very important.
And this is the EO that we're all here working together.
And in a way, this is like a training center, right, for what we're trying to do, which is jobs at great salaries. These are great salaries too.
Right, it's exactly, so all those factories that you're bringing in because of your trade policy, we're gonna train people in trade craft, bring back trade craft to America so that people can work in these factories with great paying jobs, and we're gonna train them, and we're gonna remake the American dream for all these people. We're working together.
That's right.
Right, Lori?
Absolutely. This plays right into America at Work Tour, which I have kicked off. We will work with our state partners and work with our businesses to see exactly who they need in that workforce, and we will skill and upskill these apprentices so they can get right to work and get in the field and build back this economy for exactly living the American dream. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Next, sir, we have an executive order on school discipline policies. Under, I believe it was the Biden administration, first Obama and then Biden, the Department of Justice issued guidance that made it almost impossible for schools to enforce adequate disciplinary policies. This created issues in the classroom for teachers and students alike. Basically, they focused on CRT and sort of diversity ideology instead of actually just enforcing the rules in classrooms to ensure a safe learning environment. This executive order revokes that prior guidance and puts us back in a place where hopefully the Department of Education can focus on education and teachers can focus on teaching in a safe environment.
And this was important for you, Linda, as I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely, because it gives teachers the authority now to have discipline in their classroom and discipline the person who is being disruptive.
Great.
We took that away.
Okay. Nice.
Cool.
Hey, Linda, you should hold that.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order on disparate impact theory. This is a theory that underlies a lot of the modern DEI and CRT-driven diversity culture. The basic idea here is instructing your departments and agencies to no longer rely on disparate impact theory as they're regulating, as they're issuing guidance, as they're making rules. We want to focus on results. We want to focus on actual fairness. We want to focus on merit, not things like disparate impact theory and the whole sort of diversity, equity, and inclusion cult.
It's getting out of that, huh?
Yes, sir.
After being in that jungle for a long time. Thank you. Very good job. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Very much. Would you like to make a Yes, begin and perhaps, Annette wants to say something. Annette is right here.
Yes, Annette, yes, please come over. Would you like to have some comments to make? I mean, you're a former Charlotte Mecklenburg school teacher. I'm a North Carolina girl, so
Yes,
it's a new
Newburgh.
for you. Yeah,
Yes.
Newburgh.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. This has been an 8-year journey for me to raise awareness to the violence that's in public schools and the critical need to address violence in public schools. Again, been doing it 8 years because most administrations like to keep the violence hidden. We have 3 students that should be here with us today. We have Austin McCall, I'm sorry if I say his name wrong, Serenity Baker, and Nazir Taylor from Charlotte, North Carolina, who was shot in the back as he was getting off of a school bus because they thought he was a part of a big brawl that happened inside a public high school. So this is very important and critical legislation that we have to keep our educators safe, we have to keep our students safe, and public schools have to be safe environments. So I think, like I said, I've done this journey alone, I've been on it, but I have a whole team behind me now. I spoke at the RNC, and I told millions that Donald Trump and his administration was going to make schools great again, and I feel that we're on the right path, and I'm just honored to be here.
Thank you very much. Yesterday, a great medicine with us, and is it okay if I give her one? What do you think?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Very much.
Thank you. What an honor.
Great job. Could I ask Sarah to speak, Gerardo?
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about these great gentlemen.
These heroes, Mr. President, are extraordinary. This is my husband, Michael, and so many of our
Yeah.
dear friends who are here today.
Well, learn to behave
Many
yourself.
of them have met you,
Don't be
sir,
wrong.
your first administration in
Don't
the
start pissing
hospital,
shit
many
in.
times at Walter Reed.
Right?
And they have long recoveries. Tomorrow, for my husband, marks 15 years since he was wounded in Afghanistan. And on that day, about 6 years ago, he had his 120th surgery post-Afghanistan. And you came to see him at Walter Reed and so many others. And we saw great reform in the VA, access, same-day access to prosthetics, mental health care. We know that that is back. We're going to, these gentlemen were saying, Alex here earlier was saying, in the last few years when he's gone to get a wheelchair, the VA has asked him, this gentleman, they've asked him to prove that he still has his injuries, as though maybe his limbs would grow back. And they unfortunately did not, yes. And we've seen that many times. And so we're excited for where you're bringing back the VA accountability, mission ed, community care, that were the hallmark of your first term. And we're so excited, sir, to be here. We're honored to be here. And thank you for all you do for our agents here.
Thank you. Who's that picture on there?
That is Joe Biden, and it says, "Let's go, Brandon."
I'm saying, what was that picture?
I told him he wasn't allowed to ask you to sign it.
That's very good. Well, thank you all very much. Would you like to say anything, fellas? These are big cheers. You have a lot of good people watching that believe in you. They happen to be the media, but they believe very much in you like I do. Anybody?
Mr. President, we're very happy with the energy that this administration is bringing, and it's an administration that does what it promises, and so we're behind you, we believe in you, and I think we all love you. You guys speak very, very well.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to get you a better hat. Say a better hat. That's a good one. That was the original.
It was.
That means he was there,
I
right?
wearing it before it was cool.
That's right. That's an early one. We'll save that one though, right?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anybody? Please?
I'd like to say, well, I'm just gonna say thank you for loving America, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Drew. Thank you.
Preventive is focusing on my brother's life. Of course, he goes immediately to say thank you, as he was the one that saved Michael Gerardo, put him in the helicopter, and got him off the combat zone.
Wow.
So the selflessness of these men is unspeakable.
That's great. See you.
Yeah, he's alive because of that man right here.
Very good. And these are amazing people, great heroes, so that's really great. Anybody else? Yes.
I'd like to say it was an honor to serve. You're worth it, this country's worth it, because of what Christ paid for.
Thank you. We have a spirit that people haven't seen in many years, at least 5. They haven't seen it. Even bad, what they've done to the borders, what they've done all over the place, and it's really an honor to be with you, all of you, incredible. And I'm gonna give you these coins, I think you're gonna really like them, I think they're the best. These are the best coins. And you have your chips. This is gunmetal, I don't know, soldiers like the black, but I think you like this one, it's okay. A lot of soldiers like the black. Here you go. What do you like?
I'll go to black.
Yeah?
Yeah.
See, I told you. These are choices.
I'll take a black one, sir.
Okay, look at this. That rarely happens.
Take a black one, sir.
Oh, that's good.
Call the military.
No, but is that, I always think the soldiers, they do like it's gunmetal.
That's what I heard, that it was gonna be.
Gold is.
I'm giving him two.
With three girls,
One
we're
for
gonna
this
fight.
one, we'll get another one. Okay? This is actually fun.
I'll take the gold, Mr.
Okay, I thought you were gonna take that gold. Okay,
Gold one, sir.
okay, I got it.
I had an opportunity to sail across the Gulf of America 2 days after you named it right.
Oh, well, isn't that great? It's been an honor, and now people say it routinely.
Yep.
They don't even think about the other, they say it routinely. That's been a great honor for me. Okay? Take gold ones. Okay? Almost even, I think gold is an edge.
I would love a gold one.
You got it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gold. You picked up the three ends, right? So you're all okay? That's good. So, I want to thank you very much, and especially, that's a great story. Yeah? So what do you think of a guy like that? Pretty good.
They actually, together.
Wow.
And Jared.
So you guys,
I figured.
so you guys got hit, huh? Pretty good. You got hit.
Pretty good.
Amazing, amazing.
We're top area of Kandahar, in the Arkansas River Valley, right outside Kandahar.
Their unit had a more than 50% Purple Heart rate, sir,
Wow.
in 2010.
You deserve it. You deserve that and more. We appreciate it so much. Brave, really brave, brilliant people. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions of the guys here?
I want to say thank you to the veterans who are here. Thank you so much for defending us. And then I wanted to ask you, Mr. President, because you said you want to bring the tariffs on China down soon. How soon do you want to bring the tariffs on Chinese goods?
Well, that depends on them. We have a situation where we have a very, very great place. It's called the United States of America, and it's been ripped off for years and years. These people know it. We talked about it before you came in. We've been ripped off by every country in the world, practically, friend and foe. And we're not doing that anymore. So what's happened is Howard, how many countries have we spoken to already? 90. And they all want to make deals. We're going to make deals. But they're going to be fair deals. They're not going to be rip-off deals. So, we were losing almost $5 billion a year. No country can do that. And now we have it down almost to even, maybe even better than even, because of the tariffs on cars and aluminum and steel. We have tariffs 25% on cars, aluminum and steel. And there's a rush to build new steel plants, a rush to build new aluminum plants, and a biggest rush I've ever seen, that we've ever seen, to build car plants. We have like 11 of them or something, big ones, where you guys maybe work, maybe you won't want to work, you'll do something else instead of that. But if you like cars, you'd like to work on one of these plants, the biggest plants in the world. 3 of them have left Mexico before construction started, 1 of them during construction. And they're coming to this country, they're coming back. Don't forget, and we get along great with Mexico, but Mexico took 32% of our car building business. So it's amazing what's happened. Remember this number, anywhere from $3 to $5 billion a day. That's not $1 million, that's $1 billion a day. Nobody can even imagine it. And that's what we were losing. And hence we have $36 trillion in debt and everything else. And in the end, I think what's going to happen is we're going to have great deals. And by the way, if we don't have a deal with a company or a country, we're going to set the tariff. We just set the tariff. It's something that we think That will happen, I'd say, over the next couple of weeks. What do you say? I think so. Over the next 2-3 weeks, we'll be setting the number, and we're going to pick. Could be for China too. Could be for China. We're dealing with almost all of them. Too many to fully deal with, but we're going to be fair to them. But we're dealing with a lot of countries right now, and could be with China, but maybe we'll make a special, a deal, and we'll see what it'll be. Right now, it's 145%. That's very high. It got there because of the fentanyl. They're sending, massive amounts of fentanyl into our country and killing a lot of people, probably 200,000 plus a year, wiping them out. You probably all have friends that were killed, somebody was killed in your family or your friends with fentanyl, and somehow it's made almost exclusively in China, and as you know, we essentially taxed them 10 and then another 10. We also taxed Mexico 25, and we taxed Canada 25. And that's the kind of money that's what's pouring into our country right now. And it's gotten us down from losing $3 to $5 billion a day to actually making money, but breaking even, let's say, but we're going to make a lot of money. And that money is going to be used to reduce taxes. We're going to get big tax breaks. We're going to, there was a time, I said it this morning, I think some of you were there, there was a time from 1870 to 1913, it was a long time ago, we were an all-tariff nation. Foreign nations paid taxes, they paid money to us in the form of tariffs. And that was when we were the wealthiest. We were the wealthiest proportionately that we ever were. And they formed committees in 1887 in particular, but they formed committees to determine what we should do with all the money. We had so much money, you guys would have loved it. We had so much money, they didn't know what to do with it. We gave it away to different causes, and you haven't seen that too much anymore. We give plenty away, but now we shouldn't be giving it away. We have to take care of ourselves first, right? But we were very wealthy, and proportionately the wealthiest we ever were. We built the Panama Canal. Jimmy Carter gave that away for $1, by the way. One of the most profitable things ever built, the Panama Canal. We gave it away for $1 to Panama. Why? I don't know. Nobody knows, but that's what we had. We had people like that sitting behind this desk. And that shouldn't have happened. Panama Canal, it was the most expensive thing ever built by our country in history. I'm talking relative dollars. We've never built anything so expensive. I think it was the equivalent of $1.7 billion. And we've never built anything like that. We built a lot of things, but never so expensive. Then we started building other things. We had a lot of money to do it, all based on foreign countries coming in and paying us tariffs. And we're doing that again, and I think we're going to make so much that we're going to be able to reduce taxes in this country by a lot. And we're also going to treat those countries very fairly. But if we don't make a deal, which is possible, we're going to just set the price. Because you remember, they have to come in, they want to come in here, and they want to do business with the United States. So we want to set a fair price, and we'll do that. We're going to be very fair, but we'll set a fair price, and then they can make a determination as to whether or not they want to do business with the United States. And I think most of them will, and I think we're going to treat them very fairly.
Were you worried about what the 145% tariffs were doing to small businesses here in the U.S.? Is that why you're bringing it?
No, I haven't brought it down. I haven't brought it still 145. I haven't brought it down. I said it's a high tariff. It is a high tariff, but I haven't brought it down. It basically means China's not doing any business with us, essentially, because it's a very high number. So when you add that to the price of a product, a lot of those products aren't going to sell. But China's not doing any business. They were doing $1.1 trillion. Think of that. $1.1 trillion. You know what that is? And it was just very unfair to us, and we were doing relatively very little with them. It was very one-sided. But we get along, I get along very well with President Xi, and I hope we can make a deal. Otherwise, we'll set a price, and hopefully they'll come here and they'll contribute, and if they don't, that's okay.
So, there's a lot of leaders attending the Pope's funeral who also said they'd like to meet with you while you're there. Do you have any meetings set up?
Yes, I do. I have a lot of meetings set up. I don't know if I can do it. Do you want to help me out, fellas? I have a lot of meetings. I got every leader in the world, which tells you that we have a good product. It's called the United States of America, and it's great. And these people know about it better than anybody in this room. But we have a great place, and it should be a lot greater. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make it greater than ever before. It's very simple.
Who are you gonna be meeting with, President Zelensky?
We'll have a lot of meetings set up, yeah.
And are you bringing anyone to a U.S. delegation to the funeral, like Secretary Rubio or former president?
We have a couple of people coming. We'll announce it probably this evening or tomorrow. First Lady's going, and some people are coming with me from staff. But we'll have a number of people going. I'm sure it's gonna be a beautiful ceremony.
I had one on Ukraine, but I wanted to ask you one about veterans since they are here today, and thank you for your service and sacrifice. I wanted to ask you about the cuts that have been made, including with the VA. Can you assure that veterans like these men here, those that have been suffering from mental health issues or burn pits, for example,
Yeah.
will be taken care of?
Yeah, very much so. In fact, they will tell you, it's been better with me than any president in history. We had a 92% approval rating, which is unheard of, up 50 points from the previous administration in my first 4 years, and we're doing better now. And in fact, now they have something, the colon doctor stuff, where it's really become modernized and great, where you don't have to go and travel sometimes long distances to get to a clinic or get to the VA. And I just heard this morning, I was listening to Doug Collins, who's the secretary. He was being interviewed, and the numbers are incredible. The approval ratings are the highest I've never heard of this like this. It's better than the first 4 years. So no, there's no group of people more important than the people in this room. And I'm not talking about the media. I'm talking about these people right here. There's no group, and they're going to be taken really well care of. That's very important to me.
And on the war in Ukraine, are you going to be meeting with President Zelensky? He's asked to meet with you this weekend. Will you be meeting with him?
I don't know. I don't know that he's going to the funeral or not, but I just hope he gets this thing solved, because we're losing about, think of this, 5,000. I was saying 2,500, and everyone was telling me that's low. 5,000 soldiers are being killed every week, approximately. Think of that. Every week, 5,000 soldiers, but let's say from 3,000 to 5,000 are being killed. They're Russian and Ukrainian. They're not Americans, but they're Russian, but they're people. And they're humans. They're human beings. They have families. They wave goodbye to their son, and then they get a call that the son's no longer there. It's a vicious war. And if I can help solve it, we're not losing our soldiers, but we're losing soldiers, a lot of people. And if I can solve it because of a certain ability, that would be great. And if it doesn't happen, I will say that I think Russia is ready, and a lot of people said Russia wanted to go for the whole thing. And I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far it's been harder, but that's okay. It's all right. But I think we have a deal with both. I hope they do it, because I'm looking to save, and we spend a lot of money, but this is about a lot of humanity. This is the worst. I get the pictures, the satellite pictures. I've never seen anything like it, of the fields after some of these battles. It's horrible that it's going for nothing. We would have never had this problem. You would have never had that war if I were president, I guarantee that. And for 4 years you didn't have it.
Are you going to meet with Vladimir Putin in Saudi Arabia?
It's possible, but most likely not. I think we'll meet with him shortly thereafter.
When is this Reciprocal going to present to
Mr. Chairman, Jerome Powell, during the Biden administration in the campaign, with inflation raging, he lowered interest rates 2 times.
And so
Now, with 2 consecutive months of inflation being down, all economic theory you learned in the 8th grade says it's time to cut rates when inflation is down.
Right.
He's not done that. Have you had any direct conversation with him?
No, I haven't called him. I might call him. I haven't called him, but I believe he's making a mistake by not lowering interest rates, and I think as well as we're doing, we'd do much better. He's keeping rates too high. He historically has been late, except when it came to Biden. He was recommended by a certain person that I'm not particularly happy with, but he will hopefully do the right thing. The right thing is to lower interest rates, so we'll see what happens. I think we're sitting on something that's going to be very good with all the tariff money starting to come in. Our country's gonna be doing really well, and hopefully we don't have inflation. Groceries are down. When I first came in, you people were there. They hit me with the first day that I was president. Somebody started screaming at me that eggs are up. I said, I just got here. And in the first week, they were going crazy. You remember that, Lyndon? They were going crazy. They're saying, egg prices are too. I said, I'm here for 1 week. Just leave me alone. This is the fake news. And I said, you know, what can I say? But Brooke Rollins, our Secretary of Agriculture, and a group working with her have done an amazing job. And egg prices have gone down 87%. Energy now is down $65 a barrel. They have some energy selling gasoline for less than $2 in a couple of states, Alabama, a couple of great states, but all over the country it's way down from what it was 6 months ago, 3 months ago, and that has a lot to do with the war. You know, when Biden allowed energy to skyrocket, it just skyrocketed. It was out of control. Russia made a lot more money because they make their money on energy. And I kept saying, you know, he supposedly wants to end the war, but he lets energy go out of control. Well, I've gotten it, we are drilling like crazy right now, and we have it down to $65 a barrel. It went up to almost $100 a barrel. And at that number, Putin and Russia made a lot of money. So I think one of the reasons, look, I think he has a certain respect for me. But one of the big reasons is oil prices are down. I think this is a good time to get the war settled. Thank you. Thank you for that question.
For those of us that live here in the district, you said when you came in, you were gonna make Washington DC great again.
Right.
One of the issues we've got right now is we understand there might be an imminent deal between the owner of the Washington football team, whatever you wanna call them now, Commanders, and locally in getting the Redskins back to DC and RFK Stadium. That's on federal property.
Right.
Are you gonna be involved in that negotiation?
Yeah.
And would one of the stipulations be, they changed their name back to the Redskins?
Oh, I see. Well, that's a little bit, nobody's asked me that one. Look, I think when the Indian population is a great part of this country, great heritage. And we were talking about Massapequa, Long Island, the Chiefs, they call themselves the Chiefs. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're not changing their name. A great team, great people, great owners, great coach, and quarterback. I love the quarterback, like his girlfriend too. His wife is great. She's been a big fan. His quarterback's mother is incredible. I like that team. They call the Chiefs, and frankly, I see nothing wrong with it. They call them the Warriors, and not that team, but a lot of other teams, and all of these Indian surnames and different names. And I'm saying that I think that's a positive thing. And when you go back to Indians, they told us they don't know why these names are being taken off. They're trying to. I think it's degrading to the Indian population, and it's a great population, and they like when they're called by various names. Now, Washington. The Redskins, perhaps that's a little bit different, but I can tell you that I spoke to people of Indian heritage that love that name and they love that team, and I think it's I think it's a superior name to what they have right now, and it had heritage behind it, it had something special. But a lot of the names having to do with, different places, not just Indians, but I think they changed the name of the Cleveland Indians. Why would you take the name Indians off the Cleveland Indians? And now it's called the Cleveland something else. Right? Guardians. It just doesn't make sense to me. So we're about bringing common sense back to this country. And it may be popular or unpopular what I'm saying, and I just said to you, he's a nice guy. He got a lot out of me on this one, but I think most people agree with me. I think it really is demeaning to Indians. But to change the name of the Cleveland Indians as an example to the Cleveland Guardians, is not the same, and I'm sure it has an impact on the team. Please.
Sir, thank you, sir. Elon Musk said he'll be stepping back from his work with Doge a little bit and only get dedicated maybe a day or two a week to it. How long would you like to see that continue, and how involved would you like to see it continue to be after you?
Well, first of all, I can't speak more highly about any individual. He's an incredible guy. He's a brilliant guy. He's a wonderful person. I've seen him with his family. I've seen him with a lot of his children. He's got a lot of children. He treats them good. He loves his children. But he's a brilliant guy. And he was a tremendous help, both in the campaign and in what he's done with Doge. And, you know, we're talking about almost $200 billion and rising fast, because many of the things that we were looking at are now being found out to be fact. It's terrible. I mean, the fraud, the waste, the abuse, everything that's happened is just terrible. So I also know that he was treated very unfairly by I guess you call it the public, by some of the public, not by all of it. He makes an incredible car, everything he does is good, but they took it out on Tesla, and I just thought it was so unfair, because he's trying to help the country, but he has helped the country. I also want him to make sure that he's going to be in great shape, and I know he is. I mean, he's going to do great. He loves the country. He didn't need to do this. He did it. And I told him, I said, you know, whenever you're ready, I'd like to keep him for a long time, but whenever you're ready, he's an exceptional guy. When you see those rockets go up and come back and land in the same gantry, nobody else can do that but this man. So he's just an incredible person, and he's a friend of mine, and he's a nice person too. He's a very nice person. He really helped the country, saved us a lot of money. And I heard him say that he'll start easing, he was always at this time going to ease out. And when he goes back to Tesla, that'll be taken care of. It's artificial. These were sick people that thought they were doing something. He's a great patriot, and it shouldn't be the way. That should never have happened to him. And I will tell you right now, he makes a great product. It's a great car. It's great everything. Starlink is great. What he does is good. He's doing medical things that are amazing. And we have to at some point let him go and do that. And we expect him to be doing it about this time. But I'll talk to Elon about it. Thank you for the question.
A second question. Canada has an election coming up. Do you have a prediction for that, and what do you think the results are?
With respect to Canada?
With the negotiation?
Oh, I don't want to predict other nations' elections. It's tough enough doing this one. Look, I love the Canadian people. I like Canada, but it's costing us $200 billion a year to support Canada. $200 billion. And I say, why are we doing that? You know what? We can make our own cars. We have more energy than they do. We have more energy than anybody in the world. We don't need their lumber, obviously. We have more lumber. We have a lot of lumber. We have a lot of everything that they sell us. But in particular cars, they took a large percentage of the car making, and I want to bring it back to this country. I really don't want cars from Canada. So when I put tariffs on Canada, they're paying 25%, but that could go up in terms of cars. When we put tariffs on, all we're doing is we're saying we don't want your cars in all due respect. We want really to make our own cars, which is what we're doing in record numbers now. You know, we're going to be at record levels in the very near future because of all the plants, the car plants that are being built. And I'd rather see them made in Michigan and made in South Carolina and made in different states, Tennessee. We have a lot of great car-making states, and we have some that aren't car-making yet, but there will soon be car-making states. And that's what I want to see for our country. At the same time, I want to help Canada. As to, I have spoken to the current Prime Minister. He was very, very nice, I will say. Very nice. We had a couple of very nice conversations, very good. But I don't think it's appropriate for me to get involved in their election.
Mr. President, if I may, this deal that you have with Russia, does it include recognizing Russia's sovereignty over Crimea?
Well, everything is good. Look, I just want to see the war end. I don't care. As long if they're both happy, they both sign an agreement. I have no favorites. I don't want to have any favorites. I want an agreement. I have no favorites. I don't want to have any favorites. I want to have a deal done. I want to save the lives. Now, with that being said, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars through Biden. Biden should have never let that war happen. We're spending hundreds of billions, maybe $350 billion we've given to Ukraine. And we could use that money right here. So I'd like to see that. But most importantly right now is when I see the pictures, the satellite pictures of the battlefield, if I can stop that because of an ability I have to do things, I want to see if I can do that.
Mr. President, on tariffs, you mentioned that on 25% could go up on cars in terms of Canada. Does that mean that you're considering changes to the auto tariffs and auto parts?
No, we're not considering it now, but at some point it could go up, yeah, because, again, we don't really want Canada to make cars for us, to put it bluntly. We want to make our own cars, and we're now equipped to do that. And they took a lot of our car business, Mexico too, took a lot of our car business. We want to make the cars here. I'm running this country, I'm not running Canada. And that's why I asked Trudeau, who I call Governor Trudeau affectionately, but I asked him, why are we spending $200 billion to support Canada, to subsidize Canada? And he was unable to answer the question. I mean, why are we doing that? And I have to be honest, as a state, it works great. As a nation, considering the fact that most of the nation, 95% of Canada, what they do is they buy from us, and they sell to us. They sell to us. If we didn't buy their oil, if we didn't buy their, we don't need their oil. We have more oil than anyone, but we don't need their oil. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their cars. We don't need anything. So I said, why are we doing this? Why are we spending $200 billion? It doesn't make sense. If we needed something, that would be a different subject. So I'm working well with Canada. We're doing very well. We're working on a deal. We'll see what happens. But again, why, representing this country, why are we spending $200 billion to support and subsidize another country? Because if they didn't have us, and if we didn't spend that money, as Trudeau told me, they would cease to exist. He said that to me. They would cease to exist, which is true, certainly as a country.
And then on tourism, there's been a steep drop off in international travel to the United States. It was down 12% last month, down even more from Western Europe. Why do you think that there are fewer people suddenly who want to travel to the United
Well,
States?
that could be a little, there's a little nationalism there, I guess, perhaps. It's not a big deal, but, with the dollar being where it is, because, China would always fight for having a low dollar. Japan would always fight for having a low dollar, meaning a low yen, or in the case of China, the yuan. They'd always want to have, China would always, I'd speak to President Xi a lot, I'd say, it's unfair that your yuan is so low. I'd call up the great man, Prime Minister Abe, great man, Shinzo, who was unfortunately assassinated. And I used to tell you, he was a good friend of mine, I used to say, Shinzo, you can't let your yen go down. It makes it very hard for us to sell tractors. It makes it very hard for us to get tourism. And our dollar is a little bit on the low side. And that means that a lot of tourism is going to come in. But I could see a little bit of nationalism at work. And I can see it likewise with us, not wanting to go to certain countries. But that will work out very
Do
easily.
you think some people are scared to come here because they hear the stories of tourists who are detained for a few days
No.
or even a week or two?
No, we treat our tourists great. We're the tourism capital of the world. There's no place like this. And there may be a little bit of nationalism, but I doubt it. I actually doubt it, yeah.
Mr. President, has there been any direct contact between the U.S. and China on trade at all?
Yeah, of course.
And
Every day.
every day. And then secondly, would you support a millionaire tax?
I think it would be very disruptive because a lot of the millionaires would leave the country. In the old days, they left states. They go from one state to the other. Now with transportation so quick and so easy, they leave countries. You'll lose a lot of money if you do that. And other countries that have done it have lost a lot of people. They lose their wealthy people. That would be bad because the wealthy people pay the tax. Okay?
So how did the talks today go in London? Do you think that the asks from Ukraine and
I think that went well. I mean, we got to get two strong people, two smart people to agree. And as soon as they agree, the killing will stop. But I think they went well, pretty well.
Mr. President, understanding your economic team, many of them are here today, JD Vance, has negotiated what's been called a monster trade deal with India, the biggest one ever. Can you share with us what some of the framework of that plant here.
You said England.
India,
India?
India,
Oh.
Muslim.
They're not very complicated, these deals. It's about the tariffs. India charges almost more than any other country in the world. And believe it or not, we do very little business with India, other than the fact that I like the Prime Minister very much. He's a friend of mine. He was here 2 weeks ago, as you know. And we stood right outside at a news conference. Unfortunately, the grass was very wet. And it was very hard for people to stand on the grass. They got their shoes all ruined. But other than that, it was a very good news conference. And he's a great guy. But we do very little business. You know why? Because the tariffs are so high. They have among the highest tariffs, higher than China. They have among the highest tariffs in the world. And I understand they're going to reduce those tariffs, but it's really sort of their problem, not ours. We do very, very little purchasing in India because and selling. We do very little selling. I mean, Harley Davidson, I said, how are you doing in India? This is about 6 years ago. They came to lunch as a great American company. They make the motorcycles, and I said, how are you doing in India, as an example? Well, we don't do any business there. Why? Because the tariffs are too high. I said, that's interesting. Well, what are you going to do? He said, well, we're going to build a plant in India, and that's what they did. I don't want that to happen. They were forced to build a plant. Well, essentially what we're doing is the same thing. Remember, there's no tariff when they build their plant here, and everybody wants to build because they don't want to. And the higher the tariffs go, the more likely it is they come in and build a plant. You know, I mean, if it's 25%, that's fine. If it's 50%, you'll get more plants. 75, you get more. At 100, you get more than that. And they're all coming in at numbers that nobody's, I don't think, Howard, there's ever been numbers like we've seen.
No.
$7-8 trillion worth in 2 months. Because it took me a month to get started, in all fairness, but in 2 months we did this, and now we're coming up on 100 days, first 100 days, and I think we're going to be close to $8 trillion. There was never any president that did even a tiny percentage of that. Okay, any other questions?
You already had a deal signed, one of the deals signed by your 100-day mark, and China is saying that we're threatening and blackmailing them into a deal. What would be your response?
Well, I mean, China, look, I have great relationships in China with President Xi in particular, but China has been charging us massive tariffs for many years. That's one of the reasons they were able to steal so many of our companies. They took our companies out of America and they built their plants in China. And one of those things, so now we're reversing it, but at levels that nobody's ever seen before. No, we're gonna get along great with China, I have no doubt about it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you,
Attention supermarket shoppers, it's about time we paid everyday low prices, like at Aldi, not increasingly high prices for potatoes. Aldi doesn't play pricing games. That's why they're number one in everyday low prices. It's an Aldi thing.
Yeah, the accountant 2 is a blast.
Let's go.
Ben Affleck and John Bernthal have electric chemistry.
I found Big Brother out there!
And it's one of the most entertaining movies of the year.
Shut the front door.
The accountant 2, rated R.
Okay, we have a beautiful announcement to make. It's very exciting. Money is pouring in. And we want to keep it that way. And I think that's what's going to happen. We have tremendous interest in our country, more than ever before. There's never been anything like it. We're almost at a $4 trillion level, and that's something that's never happened. And I think hopefully it's because of the election on November 5th, but it's also because of tariffs, I suspect, Governor. But I'm thrilled to welcome Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry, a friend of mine for a long time, and to have you at the White House. We thought this was going to happen, and I said, if you get it signed up, we'll do it at the White House, and you got it all done. I'm proud of you. Not surprised. Executive Chairman of Hyundai Motor Group, Jung E-sun. Thank you very much. What a great honor. Vice Chairman Jay Chang. Jay, thank you. Hyundai Steel President Su Gang Hyun. Thank you very much. President, that's big stuff. And former Ambassador Sung Kim. Thank you very much. Great honor to have all of you. also, and these names are much less difficult for me, but we will get them right. But this one we will definitely get right. Mike Johnson, a great speaker. He's been doing a real job. Right, Mike? It's an easy job, isn't it? House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Steve? Doing all right, Steve. You went through a lot. Another speaker. Philip Duvalier. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Senate President Cameron Henry, State Representative Ken Brass, State Senator Annie Lambert, and Ascension Parish President Clint Hoyt-Ment. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Great honor. Great to have you with us. Today we're delighted to report that Hyundai is announcing a major $5.8 billion investment in American manufacturing. In particular, Hyundai will be building a brand new steel plant in Louisiana, which will produce more than 2.7 million metric tons of steel a year, creating more than 1,400 jobs for American steelworkers. And then there'll be major expansion after that. This will be Hyundai's first ever steel mill in the United States, one of the largest companies in the world, by the way, supplying steel for its auto parts and auto plants in Alabama and Georgia, which will soon produce more than 1 million American-made cars every single year. Cars are coming into this country at levels never seen before. Get ready. This investment is a clear demonstration that tariffs very strongly work, and I hope other things also, but the tariffs are bringing them in at levels that have not been witnessed. Hyundai will be producing steel in America and making its cars in America, and as a result, they'll not have to pay any tariffs. You know, there are no tariffs if you make your product in America, so it's something that's why so many people are coming. As you know, we have from Taiwan, the biggest chip manufacturer in the world, is coming in with $200 billion, and we have a lot of people coming and plants coming and companies coming that never would have been here, never would have even thought about it. The new steel plant in Louisiana is part of an even larger $21 billion investment Hyundai will be making in the United States over the next couple of years. The company will also be massively increasing its auto manufacturing in Georgia and investing billions of dollars in advanced American technology companies. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask the executive chairman to say a few words, and it's a great honor to have Hyundai, a truly great company. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak here today, and thank you for the invitation. And congratulations on the remarkable start to your new term.
It's been good.
All right. So Hyundai entered the US in 1986. Since then, we have invested over $20 billion and now support more than 570,000 American jobs across all 50 states. Today, I'm pleased to announce an additional $21 billion in a new investment over the next 4 years. Our largest U.S. investment. A key part of this commitment is our $6 billion investment to strengthen the U.S. supply chain from steel and parts to automobiles. We are especially excited about Hyundai Steel's multi-billion investment in a new facility in Louisiana, which will create 1,300 American jobs and serve as the foundation for a more self-reliant and secure automotive supply chain in the U.S. To mark this milestone, we are honored to visit President Trump alongside Governor Landry and Speaker Johnson and Leader Scalping, deepening our partnership with the United States and reinforcing our shared vision for American industrial leadership. And this week, we are also proud to open our new $8 billion auto plant in Georgia. With this, our U.S. vehicle production will exceed 1 million units per year, as President mentioned. Our decision to invest in Savannah, Georgia, creating more than 8,500 American jobs, was initiated during my meeting with President Trump in Seoul in 2019. And after that, 2020 in Dallas, I mentioned about the new plant. So American Jobs was initiated during at the time. Now, as we proudly mark the completion of this transformative project in full in size, with the beginning of President Trump's second term, making this moment even more special.
Thank you.
Yeah. Furthermore, HMG will purchase $3 billion worth of U.S. LNG to support America's energy industry and enhance our energy security. All of these efforts will accelerate the localization of our supply chain in the U.S., expand our operations, and grow our American workforce. With your leadership, Mr. President, Hyundai Motor Group is proud to be a stronger partner in America's industrial future. I'd like to personally invite you to visit one of our state-of-the-art manufacturing facility and see firsthand our commitment to the United States and our American workers. So thank you to our American partners and employees and communities. We are really proud to stand with you and proud to be build the future together. Thank you.
I thought maybe we have our great speaker and we have two very good friends, Mike and Steve, and you come from a certain state that we're talking about right now that we love, and I've done very well there. I've always won by a lot. I love that state, so I was happy to hear about it. That's why I said, come on over. But Mike and you and Steve like to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're excited. It was mentioned earlier, what a great start we've had to your second term, and we're just getting started. Everyone should know that. There'll be more of this because it's the policies that are bringing about the great growth, and it's about leadership. And we have a strong new leader back in the White House. It makes a big difference because everybody around the world is seeing that, and everyone around the country is applauding it. We were on district work period last week, and Steve Scalise and I and our colleagues were traveling around the country doing campaign events, raising money, doing all the things that are necessary to ensure that we keep the House majority for the Republican Party. And I'll just tell you, I was in multiple states over the last week, and everywhere I went, Mr. President, people are excited. There's this great sense of relief, almost euphoria out there, because they know that America's back. This is the America First agenda. We're so grateful for these great friends of Hyundai to invest in Louisiana with extraordinary leadership on the state level. And leadership makes a big difference. We're so grateful to be a part of this. We want to tell you all, this is a great investment in Louisiana and America. More to come. Thank you so much. Steve?
Well, thank you again, Mr. President, for opening up the White House to this great group. Governor Landry has brought the same kind of energy to the governor's mansion in Louisiana that President Trump has brought to the nation in the White House. Some people marvel at President Trump's stamina. Over the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, we spoke by phone on some different legislative initiatives that we're working on with Speaker Johnson to continue moving the agenda forward. Those very things that President Trump ran on, he's delivering for the American people. And this announcement by Hyundai is one more example of how that agenda that President Trump ran on to make America first again is working for the American people. When you talk about 1,300 plus really good jobs in Louisiana, those are all American workers. That's billions of investment coming in from Hyundai into the United States that would not have been here without President Trump's leadership. And I think people know that, they see it. It's been a long time coming, but we applaud the work that Hyundai is doing with Governor Landry to come to our state. But for President Trump, we're seeing this all across the nation, and we're just getting started. A lot more to come, Mr. President. Thank you.
Do you have any questions, please? Yeah, please.
The size of the investment, partly because of tariffs. On April 2nd, the reciprocal tariffs will go into effect. Is it truly reciprocal? Are there some countries that might get a break, some sectors that might get a break?
Well, I may give a lot of countries breaks, but it's reciprocal. But
Liberation Day. But today, as you know, we did something with respect to Venezuela. You heard about that. And that will be quite important. We'll be announcing some additional tariffs over the next few days, having to do with automobiles, cars, and also to do with lumber down the road, and chips. We're going to get all those chip companies coming back. They're already coming back without even doing it. So it's been very good. But we'll be announcing some others. But for the most part, April 2nd will be a big day. That'll be Reciprocal Day. And we'll be bringing some of the money back that's been taken from us. Let's be nice by using the word taken. I don't want to use a stronger word because these guys are professional politicians and they don't like to hear those words. I refuse to use the word stolen from us, but
Bring down tariffs, are you seeing that negotiation?
it happened. Well, the European Union lowered their tariffs to 2.5%. We were only at 2.5% for cars, which is very low. And as you probably heard, the European Union lowered their number from much higher than that, many, many times our surprise to 2.5%. So that was good. But I don't know that I expect that. It's up to them. But we have reciprocal tariffs.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in the Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic report of that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials.
Having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
The Houthis.
The Houthis, you mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective, I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time. Anybody else?
This announcement on Hyundai, is this a blueprint for you, for other automakers, to come to the United States to do what Hyundai is doing and investing so much in Louisiana and creating these new jobs?
Absolutely. That's a nice question from you. That's a shocking question, how nice it is, huh? That's okay. That's a question, that's a good question, actually. Yeah, sure. Hyundai's a great company. We have other great companies coming in, and we have some that are going to be staying here and very much expanding. And we have tremendous interest in every business. I can't just say automobiles, but automobiles is a big one. And yeah, this is the beginning of a lot of things happening. We've had, as you know, Apple's announced a $500 billion investment, and other companies have announced 250, 300 billion. But we're well into the $3 and $4 trillion mark, which has never happened to our country before. What it really means is jobs. All we care about is jobs, right? We care about quality and quality of life and safety and security, but we care about jobs. And they're going to have we have a lot of people coming in.
I'm going to ask Governor Landry a question, if you don't mind. How did you convince Hyundai to come to your great state? How did you convince them to come to Louisiana?
It was easy. I told them we were going to have a great president this year, right? Look, again, I think that this is Americans seeing the American First policy in action, right? It's not just promises, it's about action. And not only and I appreciate their patience because all last year, many of these legislators, the Speaker and the Senate President, we worked on making Louisiana as friendly for business as the President is making America. We worked on public safety, we worked on educational reform, which the President's been working on. We worked on tax reform, historic tax reform. And what I can tell you is to echo what the President said, in Louisiana right now, I believe before the summer's over, we'll have $50 billion worth of construction projects going on in Louisiana. That is a record, Mr. President. It has never happened under any other president, under any other administration. And I can only look at the leadership that he has brought, not only to the White House, but to the world as well. And so to have these executives come here and say, hey, we want to invest in America, because for decades now, what Americans have seen is jobs being offshore rather than onshore. And today's announcement is exactly that. This is a message for all America that this president and your governors out there care about the American worker.
I have to tell you that if you have any trouble getting permits, which you won't, come see me, I'll get them for you. All right? But you're not going to have any trouble. You know, we had,
when I first got involved in this world of politics, where I went down to Louisiana, you know, the two big LNG plants, and they were stuck for 14 years. They tried to get permits, and these were 12 billion and I think $15 billion plants. And they were working on them for 14 years in one case, I think 13 or 14 in the other. And I was able to get them in less than a week. And they were shocked. And probably some consultant got a lot of money for doing it, but nobody spoke to me about it. Other than this gentleman at the time, he mentioned it, and he did. They were in very much different positions, but they wanted to see if we could break the logjam, and I got it done. In one case, I actually got it done in one day, and the other case, I didn't do as well. It took a full week. And they built it, they're up, and they're very successful now. That was a long time ago, but we got it done immediately. And you'll have no trouble getting your permits, I guarantee. These people you're dealing with are top of the line. Okay? But just in case, over.
Venezuela tariff you announced earlier today, so
Yes.
it says 25% for any country that does business
That's right.
in Venezuela.
If they buy their oil from Venezuela, they have to pay a 25% tariff to do business with the United States.
Is that on top of existing tariffs, so for example, China?
Yes, that would be on top of existing.
45%
That would be,
tariff on China next week.
that's on top of existing tariffs, yes.
And so also next week, on April 2nd, as you said, Liberation Day, is that going to be sector tariffs as well as reciprocal tariffs?
It's going to be everything, yeah. It's going to be everything, but not all tariffs are included that day. For instance, we're doing some, as you know, we've already done steel and aluminum, and that's at a 25% level. And we are going to be doing automobiles, which you've known about for a long time. We'll be announcing that fairly soon, over the next few days probably. And then April 2nd comes, that'll be reciprocal tariffs. But we may take less than what they're charging because they've charged us so much, I don't think they could take it. In other words, they've charged us so much that I'm embarrassed to charge them what they've charged us, but it'll be substantial. And you'll be hearing about that on April 2nd. And it will be Liberation Day because we'll be taking in large amounts of money for our country, and that's lower taxes and all other things that are good, and jobs, a lot of jobs.
The big corporate clients of the big law firms that you targeted with your executive orders, do you want those big corporate clients to find new lawyers?
I just think that the law firms have to behave themselves. And we've proven that. We have others that want to make a settlement also. They, having to do with the election and other things, they behave very badly, very wrongly. And I appreciate the one, you know, these are the biggest firms. And they all came back realizing that they did wrong, and that's why they're doing this. So I just think they have to behave. We have to straighten out our country. We have to straighten out our elections. Our elections are very dishonest, very corrupt, and we have to straighten it out. And it's so easy to do it. And we should go to paper ballots. We should go to one-day voting. We should go to voter ID. And just one other thing, proof of a thing called citizenship in the United States. Wouldn't that be nice? How simple does that sound? Proof of citizenship, voter ID, one-day voting, and paper ballots. You know, paper ballots are very secure. They have watermark paper. It's very intricate stuff. It's very technologically advanced, even though it's paper. And you'd have no trouble. You wouldn't have dishonest elections, and you'd have them all done by 10 o'clock in the evening. You know, France went to that, and not that I want to copy anybody, but many others have also. And they had 38 million votes, and it was all done at 10 o'clock. They had a winner, they had a loser, that was it. Nobody was complaining. And they had it backed up with paper. And it's so easy to do. The other thing, you'd save about, this would cost you about 8% of what the machines cost. So the paper would be much less expensive. So if you're looking to save some money, that's a good way to save it. So it's a shame that we've gone through it. We've gone through a bad election, really bad election. The election was so bad. And think of it, you wouldn't have had the October 7th disaster, Israel. You wouldn't have had Russia and Ukraine, because that would have never happened. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had the type of withdrawal from Afghanistan that you witnessed, which was probably one of the primary reasons that Russia went into Ukraine. They saw that mess, how badly it was handled, and they said, wow, this is a paper tiger. It was handled by incompetent people. But that wouldn't have, we would have been out, but we would have kept Bagram, the big air base, which is 1 hour away from China where they make their nuclear weapons. Would have been nice to have it, but now, you know who has it now? China has it. And so an honest election, and we wouldn't have had inflation. You know, you had the record-setting inflation, we wouldn't have had inflation.
I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to congratulate Hyundai, a great company, and we will do everything possible. And I will say you picked a fantastic state. You really with tremendous people and tremendous leaders. And Speaker, I want to thank you for doing a great job. You and Steve, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Steve. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Hey, President Trump, alongside members of Hyundai, making that investment known, where Hyundai says that they are going to be investing a fresh $20 billion into the U.S. With new plants, as well as investing in American jobs. So you're watching live now from Fox, everyone. We appreciate everyone continuing to join us. We showed you that event from President Trump without commercial interruption. And what we'll do right now is that event ends. We'll take our final break here of the hour on Live Now from Fox.
Indulge in a world of refined luxury.
Fun fact, the person with McDonald's is always the most popular kid in school. And if they save money with the app, they're also the smartest.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have a friend of mine because we went through this together and got along very well for my entire period of time. So I knew him as a very young man. Now he's just a young man. And he's done a fantastic job. Mr. President, it's an honor to have you. And you're doing incredibly for your country. And we appreciate working with you because you want to stop crime, and so do we. And it's very, very effective. And I want to just say hello to the people of El Salvador and say they have one hell of a president. Okay, and I mean that, and I know him well. I know him as a very young man, Marco. Even younger than you. You know, he started pretty young.
How long was he younger?
Young at heart. But I want to thank you for the great job you're doing. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be here in the Oval Office with the President and leader of the free world. We're very happy and we're very eager to help. We know that you have a crime problem, a terrorism problem that you need help with. And we're a small country, but if we can help, we can do it. And we actually turned the murder capital of the world, that was the journalist called it, right? Murder capital of the world into the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. And, you know, sometimes they say that we imprisoned thousands. I like to say that we actually liberated millions. So, you know, like,
That's very good. Who gave him that line? Do you think I could use that?
And in fact, Mr. President, you have 350 million people to liberate. But to liberate 350 million people, you have to imprison some. You know, that's the way it works, right? You cannot just free the criminals and think crime's going to go down magically. You have to imprison them so you can liberate 350 million Americans that are asking for the end of crime and the end of terrorism. And it can be done. I mean, you're doing it already. And I'm sure that people have seen the change in the streets. A long way to go because you're just initiating your second term. But it's clear that, you know, with the numbers at the border, you know, even in Democrat-run cities, they get a help from the work you're doing. So I'm really happy to be here, honored, and eager to help.
Well, we had a terrible thing happen. We had an administration that allowed people to come in freely into our country from not only South America, but from all over the world, many from the Congo in Africa, Asia, all over the world, Europe, rough parts of Europe. And they came from prisons, and they came from mental institutions, and they came from gangs, and the gangs of Venezuela and other places. And hundreds of thousands and even millions of them came. 21 million people altogether, but many of the people that came, just a tremendous percentage of them were criminals, in some cases violent criminals. We had 11,088 known murderers, half of them murdered more than one person. This was allowed by a man who, what he did to our country is just unbelievable. So we're straightening it out, we're getting them out. But what they did and what that party did to our country, open borders, anybody could come in. As soon as I heard that, I said, every prison's gonna be emptied out into our country. That's what happened. And we're straightening it out, and we just had numbers, we had the highest recruiting numbers in the history of our country going into police departments. And a year ago, we had the lowest numbers. You couldn't hire,
Biggest change.
nobody's ever
The lowest
seen.
of the high.
And the military now, Marines, the Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, every slot is, I mean, we have the best numbers we've ever had. We call it recruitment numbers. And we've never had anything like it. We had records on at every single level. But very important, the policemen. The policemen are joining forces now that we're having a hard time with policemen because we weren't protecting our police. And we cherish our police. The police are great, and the firemen and everybody else. But we have the highest numbers that we've ever had, the most enthusiasm. Great enthusiasm and on trade and other things. We're doing great. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars. We made 2 weeks ago. I gave them a little bit of a pause because you have to show a little flexibility. We go back to what we have to do. The markets have been very strong once they got used to it, but we were losing $2 billion a day. There's no company big like this. Right? This is the biggest deal ever made. Now we're making $3 billion a day. We're a great country, but we had stupid people running this country. And I can say, what they've done to us at the border should never and can never be forgotten. It's a sin, what they did. And you are helping us out. And we appreciate it.
Actually, what you're doing with the border is remarkable. It has dropped, what, 95% to
This morning, 99%, 99.1% to be exact.
Why are those numbers not in the media?
Well, they get out with the fake news, like CNN over here doesn't want to put them out because they don't like putting out good numbers. They only like putting out, because I think they hate our country, actually. But it's a shame, you're right. Isn't that a great question? Why don't they put out numbers?
Yeah, 99%, I mean, it's crazy, right?
We're doing
It's a crazy turnaround.
Christy, could you maybe say a couple of words about the border, how we're doing?
It's just been absolutely phenomenal what a great leader can do. Clear direction, our laws matter. We should only have people in our country that love us, and the Border Patrol and our ICE officers and law enforcement officers have done fantastic work. So we're proud of them. Now we just need to get the criminals and murderers and rapists and dangerous gang members and terrorist organizations out of our country. So, Mr. President Kelly, we thank you very much for your partnership. It has been wonderful for us to be able to have somewhere to send the worst of the worst and someone to partner with. And we'd like to continue that partnership because it's been a powerful message of consequences. Mr. President, you wanted people to know that there was consequences if you break our laws and harm our people and endanger families. And this is a clear consequence for the worst of the worst that we have somewhere to put them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we even had this gang member from Venezuela, one of the ones you sent in. We interviewed him just, to get some information, etc. from them. And he said, oh, well, I got arrested 6 times, but they released me the 6 times, so let's get me released again. And then he said, well, what's the last thing you do? And he said, well, I shot a cop in the leg, but I didn't kill him. I just shot him in the leg. And we're like, this guy was arrested 6 times here in the United States, 6 times. He was released 6 times, and in the last, he was released 5 times, and the last time he was sent to El Salvador, right? So he's not getting released, but the last time he shot a cop, actually, and he shot him in the leg. So, these are, like you said, there's something broken.
It's the liberal establishment, but they're not running things anymore in this country, and we're run by, and I don't say conservative, I don't say anything, we're run by people with great common sense.
Yeah, common sense.
Because it's all common sense, it's not liberal conservative, it's common sense. Like, do you allow men to play in women's sports? Do you allow men to box your women and box? Because I know you have a lot of boxing.
That's violence.
That's abuse of the woman. It's abuse of the woman. But we have people that fight to the death because they think men should be able to play in women's sports. And some of those sports, it wouldn't matter much, but it still matters. But some of them are very dangerous for women.
Some years ago, I was a decade ago or so, women's rights movements were pressuring so that we enacted specific laws to avoid men abusing women. And I think those laws were great because there were a lot of men abusing women. But now some of the same people are trying to backtrack on that and actually trying to make new laws allowing men to abuse women in sports. So actually, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
You know, they have weightlifting records, right? Yeah. A woman gets up and sways, she's incredible. A guy gets up and beats her by 100 pounds. What are you gonna do? A record that hadn't been broken in 18 years. You know, they put on an ounce, quarter of an ounce, eighth of an ounce for 18 years. Now they have a guy come up, ping. The whole thing is crazy. But they continue to fight. And I don't like talking about it because I want to save it for just before the next election. I say to my people, don't even talk about it because they'll change. And, well, but I watched this morning, there was a congressman fighting to the death for men to play against women in sports. And you say to yourself, why? What are they doing, right? What are they doing? But your country's not too big in that.
No, of course not. We're big in protecting women.
Good. Yes, it's a very important form of protection, too.
And as you can see, most of my cabinet are women, so.
That's impressive.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why you're
And they're not the hires or anything, they're just great at what they do, right?
That's right, this is very impressive. This is a first. We've had women, but we've never had three of them right here.
Four and three
And
men.
look at what we have. You guys feel a little bit mistreated? That's good, I like that. We've been advanced, I've been very advanced in that regard too. We have Pam, who's been so fantastic. Christy, and the most powerful woman they say.
They're all afraid of
Susie Wells, they say, oh, she's the most powerful woman in the world, according to magazines. What do I know? I think she probably is. Yeah, she probably is.
Congratulations.
And you know, Stephen has done such a great job. We have great people. But we love working with him. He really lets them have it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no games.
No.
He knows. Do you have any questions, please?
President Trump,
Go, let's not go.
Mr. President.
Because it's so, they're just so
Mr. President.
raw. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. You repeatedly mentioned last night that Russia's attack on Ukraine was a mistake. What is the exact mistake? And had you given Putin a deadline to actually move towards a ceasefire?
The mistake was letting the war happen. If Biden were competent, and if Zelensky were competent, and I don't know that he is, we had a rough session with this guy over here. He just kept asking for more and more. That war should have never been allowed to happen. That war, I went 4 years and Putin wouldn't even bring it up. And as soon as the election was rigged and I wasn't here, that war started. There was no way that war should have been allowed to happen. And Biden should have stopped it, and you take a look at Putin. I'm not saying anybody's an angel, but I will tell you, I went 4 years and it wasn't even a question. He would never, and I told him, don't do it, you're not gonna do it. And it was the apple of his eye, but there was no way that he would have done it. All you had to do is lower oil prices. If you lowered oil prices, Biden kept the prices so high because he made it impossible to get it. If you lowered oil prices, you would have never had the war. But you wouldn't have had it with me anyway. That war would have never happened. And I think it's a great abuse. So now what do? You get a country where 25% of its land is gone, and the best locations, where millions of people are killed. You know, you haven't reported accurately the death. And this was Biden's war, and I'm trying to stop it. And I think we're gonna do a good job. I hope we're gonna do it. They lose 2,500 young people a week, think of on average. Now they're Russians and they're Ukrainians, but it's 2,000, we don't care, it's like whatever it is. They're not from your country, they're not from mine, but I wanna stop it. 2,500 is a killing field. It's like the Civil War. You take a look, I look at the satellite pictures. This should not be happening in our time. Of course, our time can be pretty violent, as we know. But that's a war that should have never been allowed to start. And Biden could have stopped it, and Zelensky could have stopped it, and Putin should have never started it. Everybody's to blame.
Have you spoken to President Zelensky, sir, about his offer to purchase more Patriot missile
Oh, I
batteries?
don't know, he's always looking to purchase missiles, you know, he's against, listen, when you start a war, you gotta know that you can win the war. You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size, and then hope that people give you some missiles. If we didn't give them what we gave, remember, I gave them javelins. That's how they won their first big battle with the tanks that got stuck in the mud, and they took them out with javelins. They have an expression that Obama at the time, Obama gave them sheets and Trump gave them javelins. But just something that should have never happened. It's a really shame. The towns are destroyed. Towns and cities are, you know, largely destroyed. They have the spires, you know, the beautiful spires that go up. They say they were the most beautiful in the world in Ukraine for whatever reason, but the most beautiful in the world. They're mostly laying on their side, shattered and broken. And most importantly, you have millions of people dead. Millions of people dead because of 3 people. I would say 3 people. Let's say Putin number 1, but let's say Biden, who had no idea what the hell he was doing, number 2, and Zelensky. And all I can do is try and stop it. That's all I want to do. I want to stop the killing. And I think we're doing well in that regard. I think you'll have some very good proposals very soon.
Last question, sir. Have you attributed a motive through the FBI investigation behind the attack on Governor Josh Shapiro over the weekend?
No, I haven't, but the attacker was not a fan of Trump, I understand, just from what I read and from what I've been told. The attacker basically wasn't a fan of anybody. It's probably just a whack job. And certainly a thing like that cannot be allowed to happen.
President Bukele, the best guarantee that this time you won't terminate the temporary
I have
protected
a
status?
great relationship with this man. I have the best relationship with him. We've known each other. I've known him since he was a very young man, as I said, very, very young. And I was impressed. I said, look how this guy is. In fact, you sort of look like a teenager. You look like a teenager. I said, what kind of country is this? He grew up well in the last 5 years.
Do you support legislation for nationals of El Salvador under temporary protected status?
Do you plan to ask him?
Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CP.
Thank you, President. Do you plan to ask President Bukele to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly
Which one is that?
deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, 2 courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork that needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him,
And you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. Can you just also respond to that question? Because, you know, it's asked by CNN and they always ask it with a slant, because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid. which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States, and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised with the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan to ask for any help to get him back?
And what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time. No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here, because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about per the court can only be directed to him.
I asked
Usted no
President
liberaría,
Bukele,
presidente,
what is
porque-
can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposing that's suggesting that I smuggle terrorists into the United States, right?
It's always
How
here.
can I smuggle, how can I return him to the United States? Like, if I smuggle him into the United States, or whether I do it? Of course, I'm not gonna do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How could I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
You can release him inside of Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world to the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. You want us to go back into releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? That's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal,
Yeah, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick, these are sick people. Mark, do you have something to say?
Yeah, Stephen Island, I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President, no, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over, and that's why nobody watches you anymore. You have no credibility. Please go ahead.
President Trump, thank you so much. How many illegal criminals are you planning on exporting to El Salvador? And President Bukele, how many are you willing to take from the U.S.?
As many as possible. And I just asked the president, it's this massive complex that he built, jail complex. I said, can you build some more of that, please? As many as we can get out of our country that were allowed in here by incompetent Joe Biden through open borders. Open borders. You probably hear open borders and you can't even understand it because nobody can understand it. Nobody smart or with common sense can understand it. So we have millions of people that should not be in this country that are dangerous. Not just people, because we have people, but we have millions of people that are murderers, drug dealers, who are allowed to come into our country by other countries that were very smart. When they heard that this very low IQ president, and by the way, I took my cognitive exam as part of my physical exam, and I got the highest mark, and one of the doctors said, sir, I've never seen anybody get that kind of, that was the highest mark. I hope you're happy with that. Well, the calculator, but I did do my physical and it was released. I hope you're all happy with it. I noticed there's no question, so probably you are. But the calculator, they said to me, sir, would you like to take a calculator? I said, did Biden take one? No. Did anybody take one? No, not too many people took them. I said, what about Obama? Did he take one? No, he didn't take one either. I said, let me be the only one to take one. But I've actually taken them 3 times already. I like taking them because they're not too tough for me to take. But we had a great physical exam, so I think you're going to ask that. And the doctors who are total professionals, Walter Reed Medical Center, they're great people. And I visited a soldier that was badly wounded, incredible soldier, lost his leg, and spent a lot of time with him. I mean, great with his mother, and it was really a very great thing. They do a phenomenal job. I just want to say, Walter Reed, I was there for like 5-6 hours. You were there with me. But I took a full physical and it came out perfecto, so that's good. And she got me for a little longer.
Would you pay for those facilities to be open and new ones were going to be built?
I do something, we help them out, yeah, we help them. They're great facilities, very strong facilities, and they don't play games. I'd like to go a step further, I mean, I said it to Pam, I don't know what the laws are, we always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that put people into something that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that state, okay?
And do you think more presidents should follow suit like you guys as far as taking a hard stance on crime in the United States?
Oh, I do. I think everybody has to. The president said it better than anybody. He said, you know, you have liberty and you have to have liberty, but to have liberty, not everybody is gonna be good. And you know, some are bad because they're sick. They're mentally deranged, they're bad. Then you have to take them, if you're gonna have a country, you're gonna have to take those people out. And we've been doing that. But this was like an unforced error, they would call it, where we had people that may hate our country, or maybe they're just stupid people. I think they're probably stupid people more so. A lot of people said they did it for the vote, but I did better with Hispanic people than they did, because I always used Hispanic. I did better. You people love me. I saw my poll numbers in your country. I'm through the roof, right? 91%. Some people think they do it for the vote. But they don't have to do it for the vote. They cheat, you know, they're professional cheaters. That's about the only thing they do well. So we just have had a great relationship, and it's become bigger because of a strange thing that happened. You know, I came back, we had no war in Ukraine, we had no October 7th, Middle East problem, we had nothing, we had no inflation. We didn't have the Afghanistan, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, the Afghanistan, not withdrawn, because I would have been, you know, I had it all set to bring people out with dignity and pride. That was the worst, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan. We didn't have any of that. You wouldn't have had the war with Russia, Ukraine. You wouldn't have had the Middle East problem because Iran was broke, they had no money, because we had secondary sanctions on and lots of other sanctions. And now every single thing, got a problem with Iran, but I'll solve that problem. That's almost an easy one. We got to solve a war that should have never started, Ukraine and Russia, and we'll get that solved. And we have to solve problems, and we already solved inflation here. If you look at the numbers are incredible, actually. The stock market's up, and we're not letting other countries take advantage of this country like they have for the last 40 years. So thank you very much. You have a question, please?
Mr. President, thank you so much. You scored another major investment win this morning with Nvidia, pledged to build its AI supercomputer. First time ever right here in the United States.
That's a question I like.
That's true.
What is your reaction to this announcement, sir, and how will this positively benefit Americans across the United States?
Well, it's one of the biggest announcements you'll ever hear, because Nvidia, as you know, controls that almost the entire sector, which is one of the most important sectors in the world, between chips and semiconductors and everything else, and they're the biggest. And the other biggest we already have coming in is spending $300 billion, as you know, they announced 2 weeks ago. But Nvidia is so highly respected, and this was an announcement that a lot of people, I knew it was going to happen, but not to the extent that it happened. It's big. And the reason they did it is because of the election on November 5th, and because of a thing called tariffs, as I say, the most beautiful word in the dictionary. After love, God, relationship. The press actually had me, I said, tariff is the most beautiful word in the dictionary. What about family, love, God? I got hit even on that. You understand? I said, okay. So now I say it's my 5th most favorite word, because they get you in anything. But that Nvidia, it's one of the great companies of the world, modern, super modern companies, controls segments that nobody, sort of controls the world in a sense, and they're coming in here in the biggest way with hundreds of billions of dollars. Not like millions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, and I'm honored by it. And I want to thank Jensen and all of the people that we deal with. They're great people, they're brilliant people. And without tariffs, they wouldn't be doing it. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Are
please.
you considering additional sanctions against Russia after their latest attack? And do you have an update on the rate and when you might announce
Well,
semiconductor
I already have
tariffs?
sanctions on Russia. I put them there. If you remember, Nord Stream 2, that's the big pipeline that goes through Europe. I stopped it. That's Russia's pipeline, the largest pipeline, I think, in the world. Goes to Germany. And I stopped it. And when Biden came in, he approved it. And then they say, oh, I'm friendly with Russia. No. Putin said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you when you're my enemy. I stopped the biggest economic job they ever had. I stopped it cold, right? It was dead. You know that, right? And Biden came in and he immediately approved it. What was that all about? And it's a pipeline that takes care of a lot of the needs. Now, it was a very controversial thing, but I stopped it and Biden approved it. Question?
Tariffs.
No, not you. Not
Semiconductor tariffs and potentially pharmaceuticals.
What?
Semiconductor tariffs and potentially pharmaceuticals.
Pharmaceuticals we're going to do, we don't make our own drugs, our own pharmaceuticals. We don't make our own drugs anymore. The drug companies are in Ireland and they're in lots of other places, China. And all I have to do is impose a tariff. The more, the faster they move in. The higher the tariff, it's very simple. It's inversely proportional. The higher the tariff, the faster they come. And we're going to be doing that. That's going to be like we have on cars. We have, as you know, 25% tariff on cars. We have a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. And that's what that category fits right now.
Do you have a percentage in mind and a timeline?
I have a timeline, not too distant future. We're doing it because we want to make our own drugs. We're doing it because we want to make our own steel and aluminum, lumber, other things. And they're all coming in. We have record numbers, $7 trillion. Since I announced, like a month and a half ago, since I came in, we have over $7 trillion being invested in the country. We didn't have $1 trillion. We didn't have $500 billion for some of these guys. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. So we have the largest investment that we've ever heard of, and we're only 2 months in. And that'll continue at levels that you've never seen before. It's going to happen. And even the stock market's up today. We also, a lot of people didn't say it the way it was. We had the largest gain in the stock market in history on every single category last week. That was a nice game because we get a little hit because people didn't understand the power of our our country economically if you use it right. Do you have something to say on that, JD?
Yes, sir. I mean, look, for 40 years we have lost manufacturing capacity. Workers have seen their wages stagnate, and some of the most critical things that we need, from the pharmaceuticals, the drugs that we give to our children, the antibiotics that we give to our kids, to the weapons that we actually need to fight a war. If God forbid we had to fight a war, we don't make enough of that stuff. And so President Trump ran explicitly on changing that. Yes, as the president mentioned, it caused a little bit of disruption in the market, but I actually think over the long term, workers are going to benefit, stocks are going to go up, American businesses are going to benefit as we reinvest and reindustrialize our country.
And the auto workers and the Teamsters and all of the unions, you know, not traditionally Republican, but I'm winning those unions by, what, 40, 50 points on the Democrats. They're losing everything. And they're losing everything because they just have policies that are not believable. They fight for policies that are 5% popular, and nobody knows who the 5% are. I mean, nobody can find the 5%. But if you go back to Ohio, and by the way, we have the great championship team from Ohio coming in today, right?
Very big day.
And that's going to be a little bit later. And that'll be, if you want to stick around, you'll see some very large people, right? You'll see some people that even you have not seen before. These are 6'7", 380 pounds with no fat. Okay, that's pretty good. But the team, the national championship team, is being honored today. Want to stay with us? You can tell them all about your prison, how you have to behave. Who else?
You said yesterday that you're making a decision on Iran very quickly. What do you mean by that? Is that a decision to strike Iran?
Iran wants to deal with us, but they don't know how. They really don't know how. We had a meeting with them on Saturday. We have another meeting scheduled next Saturday. I said, that's a long time. You know, that's a long time. So I think they might be tapping us along. But Iran has to get rid of the concept of a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. We can't have a nuclear weapon. Nobody can have. We can't have anybody have any nuclear weapons. You know, we can't have nuclear weapons. And I think they're tapping us along because we're so used to dealing with stupid people in this country. And I had Iran perfect. If you had no attacks, you would have never had October 7th in Israel, the attack by Hamas, because Iran was broke. They were stone cold broke when I was president. And I don't want to do that. I want them to be a rich, great nation. The only thing is, one thing, simple, it's really simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. And they got to go fast because they're fairly close to having one. And they're not going to have one. And if we have to do something very harsh, we'll do it. And I'm not doing it for us, I'm doing it for the world. And these are radicalized people, and they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Does that include a potential strike on Iranian nuclear facilities?
Of course it does.
Just a follow-up question, a clarification. You mentioned that you're open to deporting individuals that aren't foreign aliens but are criminals to El Salvador. Does that include potentially U.S. citizens, fully naturalized Americans?
If they're criminals and if they hit people with baseball bats over their head that happen to be 90 years old, and if they rape 87-year-old women in Coney Island, Brooklyn, yeah, that includes. And what do you think? There's a special category of person. They're as bad as anybody that comes in. We have bad ones too, and I'm all for it because we can do things with the president for less money and have great security. And we have a huge prison population. We have a huge number of prisons, and then we have the private prisons, and some are operated well, I guess, and some aren't. But he does a great job with that. We have others that we're negotiating with too. But no, if it's a homegrown criminal, I have no problem. Now, we're studying the laws right now. Pam is studying. If we can do that, that's good. And I'm talking about violent people. I'm talking about really bad people. Really bad people. Every bit as bad as the ones coming in. And I made the statement when I heard about this a long time ago now, 4 years ago. When I heard that this guy was having open borders, I said every single criminal from all over the world is going to be dumped into our country. And that's what happened. The jails of the Congo were emptied out. The jails of Venezuela were emptied out. And you know what happened? Their crime went way down. But now Venezuela has other problems. You know what the problem is? They have no money. Yeah, because I shut off their oil and we put secondary tariffs because they're not doing what's right over there. They know what to do. We spoke to them, I spoke to them, they know what to do. But they have no money, Venezuela has no money. But Iran had no money, and Iran behaved so beautifully. And then Biden took all those secondary tariffs on them. I told China, you can't buy oil. If you buy oil from Iran, China, I told it to President Xi, then we no longer want you to do business with the United States of America. And those ships disappeared from that harbor so quickly. China. Get along great with China.
Are the talks with Iran productive? Do you want to continue that? The talks with Iran, do you believe those are productive? Do you want to continue that?
I think Iran could be a great country as long as it doesn't have nuclear weapons. If they have nuclear weapons, they'll never get a chance to be a great country. They will never get a chance. It won't even come close.
Sir, on tariffs.
Yeah.
Yes, yesterday you mentioned short-lived product exemptions. Which specific products are you considering and how long is short-lived? Weeks, months?
I'm looking at something to help some of the car companies with it. It's that were made in Canada, Mexico, and other places. And they need a little bit of time because they're going to make them here. But they need a little bit of time. So I'm talking about things like that.
What about any Apple products, other cell phones?
Look, I'm a very flexible person. I don't change my mind, but I'm flexible. And you have to be. You just can't have a wall and you'll only go. No, sometimes you have to go around it, under it, or above it. There'll be maybe things coming up. I speak to Tim Cook. I helped Tim Cook recently, and that whole business. I don't want to hurt anybody, but the end result is we're going to get to the position of greatness for our country. We're the greatest economic power in the world if we're smart. If we're not smart, we're going to hurt our country very badly. We lost with China over the Biden years trillions of dollars on trade. Trillions of dollars. And he let them fleece us. And we can't do that anymore. And you know what? I don't blame China at all. I don't blame President Xi. I like him. He likes me. I mean, who knows? Who the hell cares?
Do you have any updates on
But you know what? What?
Do you have any updates with talks with China?
No, let me just tell you this. I don't blame China. I don't blame Vietnam. I see the meeting today. Is that wonderful? That's a lovely meeting. We're meeting, like trying to figure out how do we screw the United States of America. Don't forget, the European Union was formed to do just that. The European Union was formed to hurt the United States and on trade. And they get us on NATO because they don't pay their bills. But now, since I got involved, they have been paying their bills. I took in over $600 billion for NATO. Nobody took in anything. I mean, they were all delinquent. They had 8 nations out of 28 paid their bills. The rest of them were way delinquent. And I said, if you don't pay your bills, we're not going to protect you anymore. And the money poured in over 600. The Secretary General last week made that statement. He said, I've never seen anything like it. We couldn't get anybody to pay because the United States was footing the bill for NATO. Well, we got hurt there, and we got hurt on trade, likewise, European Union. And they've got to come to the table. And they're trying to. They're trying to. But the European Union is taking terrible advantage. They don't take our food products. They don't take our cars. We have millions of their cars, BMW, Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, many others. They come in by the millions. There are no Chevrolets in Munich, I can tell you that. I said to Angela Merkel that when she was there, and she was letting millions of people infiltrate Germany, which was not so good from, we would call them illegal immigrants, but she made them legal. But I said to her, and I got along with her very well, I said, how many Chevrolets do we have in Munich or Frankfurt? Why? None, Donald, none. I said, you're right. And yet we take in millions and millions of cars. Now, those days are over. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President. Mr. President, can you comment on the FTC's case against Mark Zuckerberg, Meta, and Mark Zuckerberg? Thank you, President.
Attention super markup shoppers, it's about time we paid everyday low prices, like at Aldi. Not
Insure, invest, protect. Mutual of Omaha. Protect your kingdom.
Shift gears quickly here on Live Now from Fox. I believe media is now being led into the Oval Office for the signing, so not taking place in the Rose Garden anymore. Let's just dive into this live event here on Live Now from Fox. Plenty of comments from the president, plenty of questions also to be asked. Let's listen into what is said here.
Peter, ask him a lot of questions. You all set? So it's an honor to have you back. A friend of mine, Kid Rock, sometimes referred to as Bob. I know him as Bob, but he's been a good friend for a long time, many years, and he's been after something that is for the good of a lot of people, including in particular the public, and having to do with ticket sales and scalping and all of the gouging that you have been reading about. It's gotten worse and worse with time. And I didn't know too much about it, but I checked it out, and it is a big problem. And I think you've been trying to get this done for 20 years or something. He said Trump got it done in 2 weeks. But we came up with a very serious EO, and I'm going to sign it now, and maybe I'll ask you, Will, to explain a little bit about it, please.
Of course, sir. So this is an executive order, as you said, that deals with the ticket reselling business. For fans of live entertainment and for entertainers as well, the ticket reselling industry has become a huge issue. These people use bots and computer algorithms to buy up huge blocks of tickets and then jack up the price so that fans of live entertainers like Mr. Ritchie, I almost called him Mr. Rock, don't have access to concerts the way that they should. And when they do, it's at exorbitantly high prices. So what this executive order does, it charges the FTC and the Department of Justice with rigorously enforcing laws on the books in collaboration with state attorneys general that have power over consumer protection and other people who have the power to really crack down on this issue so that entertainers and fans won't be subject to these abusive and oftentimes illegal practices.
Good. Thank you very much. Bob, do you want to say something?
Yeah, it doesn't matter your politics. First of all, thank you, Mr. President, because this has happened at lightning speed. I know you I want to make sure Alina Haba gets her credit too, because I know she worked very hard on this, but thank you for making this happen so quick. Anyone who's bought a concert ticket in the last decade, maybe 20 years, no matter what your politics are, knows that it's a conundrum. You buy a ticket for $100, by the time you check out, it's $170. You don't know what you can charge for, but more importantly, these bots. You know, they come in to get all the good tickets to your favorite shows you want to go to, and then they're relisted immediately for sometimes a 400 or 500% markup. And the artists don't see any of that money. And, you know, ultimately, I think this is a great first step. I would love down the road if there'd be some legislation that we could actually put a cap on the resale of tickets. And I'm a capitalist and a deregulation guy, but they've tried this in some places in Europe, and it seems to be the only thing that's us as artists be able to get the tickets into the hands of the fans at the prices we set. I'll be the first one to say, and I know the president doesn't like when I say this, but I'm a little overpaid right now. It's kind of ridiculous. I would rather be, you know, a hero to working class people and have them be able to come attend my shows and give them a fair ticket price. And I can't control that right now. So hopefully this is a step to really be able to make that happen. I know a lot of artists and a lot of fans who love concerts and music are going to be very appreciative of your tax.
And I think Bob is more interested in the fans and the people that are having to pay crazy prices than he is the artist. Maybe the artist a little bit, but the fans a lot. I've spoken to him over the years about it. And it's been, it bothers him. It bothers a lot of other artists too. You see the artists, and they go out with a $100 ticket and it sells for $2,000 the following night. And they seem to be able to sweep up the best locations too, which is pretty amazing. So
they've only enforced that box act one time, I believe. Yeah. A couple of years ago in New York City, they still got a $2 million fine. And that's the only time they've enforced that act.
And who is the primary culprit? Who sells these tickets?
It's the scalpers. It's these bots go in and they're automated. So
Is there a company involved? You might not want to.
No, well, there's reselling markets, all, yeah.
I think I know, Peter. But that's all right, don't get them involved, maybe they're more innocent than we think.
Well, if you think of it, like, if Ticketmaster sells a ticket, if you buy a ticket and go to a show, you're in a lot of ways their worst customer. Because they make another 17, whatever percentage every time that ticket resells, so they don't want to enforce the bots necessarily, because they're making more money off it. No, the artists don't see any of that money, but that's not what I'm advocating for, is for me to make more money. I want the fans to have fair ticket prices, be able to go and enjoy more shows. I know people that they decide on a family vacation they're going to their favorite concert once a year, rather than, my parents used to go see multiple shows when you could afford them back in their day. And I'd like to take my ticket prices lower, but if I set my ticket prices low, these bots immediately eat them up, and they resell for hundreds of dollars more, and I'm just making these bad actors rich.
Well, I think this is a big step to getting it stopped. Do you have something, Ryan?
Yeah, I do actually. I actually feel that the consumer is going to take the money that they save and actually buy merch, which you guys have a big percentage of, or do concessions, which you guys split with the venue on that as well. So I think that
We don't share concessions a lot. No, those are, we try to, but they don't want to share it in the beer prices and parking or any of that stuff. But the bottom line is there's money for everyone to be made. There's plenty of money to go around. No one's gonna really lose here. Ticketmaster, if we can get a cap, they're gonna lose some money, but I've already talked to CEO Michael, and he's giving me his word, he's on board for it.
I was talking to Jacoby with Papa Roach earlier, and by the way, he's a big fan of what you're doing, President Trump, digging into this whole scalping and the bots. A lot of musicians, you can say that, they're with Kid Rock, sorry, on this, without a doubt.
A lot of people are.
President Trump, would you ever wear a jacket like that?
I don't know, I was thinking about doing it for tomorrow. We have a big event coming up, and I was thinking about doing it, but I'm not sure.
So you recently bought a Tesla for White House staff to use, but now there's all these domestic terrorists targeting Teslas. Are the staff scared to drive it?
I don't think so. I haven't heard. They were complaining. I did buy one, and I let the staff use it. We have it parked conveniently, and one day we give it to Margot, one day we give it to Chamberlain, give it to Natalie, we give it to everybody around, give it to Dan Scavino, but he's got so much money it doesn't matter. But they love the car, and it's a great car, and it's made here, it's made in the country. He's got a tremendous plant now in Texas, and he has one in California. Does a lot of his work here, and he's been really unfairly treated, in my opinion.
I tried one.
And
Yeah.
there's this other story, I know it's hypothetical right now, but if you were allowed for some reason to run for a third term, is there a thought that the Democrats could try to run Barack Obama against you?
I'd love that.
For his third term?
Boy, I'd love that. That would be a good one. I'd like that. No, people are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a third term. I don't know. I never looked into it. They do say there's a way you can do it, but I don't know about that. But I have not looked into it. I want to do a fantastic job. We have 4 years, just about, almost close to 4 years. Time is flying, but it's still close to 4 years, and we're getting a lot of credit for having done a great job in the first almost 100 days. And we have some big things we're going to be announcing over the next 2 days, and you know very well, Peter, and I think it's going to be something that's going to bring a lot of wealth back to our country, tremendous wealth back to our country, actually. And other countries are understanding it because they've been ripping us for 50 years longer, but they've been ripping us off for years, right from the beginning. And I think this is going to be an amazing, I call it a lot of different names, but it's really, in a sense, it's a rebirth of a country, because how we could have afforded to do what we did. We help everybody, and they don't help us. I really, the term I like best probably is the liberation of America. It's the liberation of this country, because it's incredible. Look, we have 36 trillion in debt for a reason, and that accumulates over a long period of time. So I think what you're going to be seeing over the next couple of days will be very inspiring to a lot of people. They had a lot of oil plants being built in a certain country. I don't want to mention the country because we get along great with the country, but those plants aren't being built there anymore. They gave them up today and yesterday, day before, and they're building them all now in the United States. And we have many examples, not only auto plants, chip companies from Taiwan are coming in. The biggest, Mr. Wei, he's big. I said, you are a smart guy, aren't you? I've been reading about him. over the years, but he controls a large portion of the chip business, as you know. You don't get smarter, they're gonna be investing $200 or $300 billion. Apple's investing $500 billion. You know, they always built their places in China, now he's building here. I think because of you speak to Tim Cook, because of the election, but maybe more importantly because of the tariffs. You know, he's got really an obligation to do it, but we have many, many companies that you haven't even heard of, but I think we'll be at $5 trillion very soon, and if you think about this, we've never been anywhere near that. I don't know if we've ever been at $1 trillion.
What do you mean by that?
We're 500, what do I mean by trillion?
5 trillion, what are you referring to, sir?
I think that we're gonna be at $5 trillion of investment. I think you're gonna have investments very shortly. We're already 3.5, and we have commitments, verbal commitments for a lot more. And numbers like that have never been done in this country, and it's gonna get harder. This is in 2 months. It's really in less than 2 months, because since we've really gone out with it, and we have other interesting things happening, but to me, the whole tariff situation, and essentially they've done that to us for many years. So if we're anywhere near 5 trillion in 2 months, this could be numbers like the country's never seen. And every time you hear a dollar spent, that's another job, because the jobs are coming with it. So auto plants, chip plants, pharmaceuticals, lumber coming in. We have things happening in this country. I'm not sure that they've ever seen it. Steel, you know, we have tariffs on steel. They've been here for a while. Steel and aluminum. Nobody's ever seen anything like we're witnessing now. Nobody's ever seen anything. Most of you agree with that. I mean, there's nothing much you can't agree with. We have things happening in terms of jobs and investment, the likes of which I don't think we've ever seen. If you look at, let's say, $4 to $5 trillion in a period of a month and a half, that's even more than you do with your concerts, which are always sold out, right? Nobody's ever seen numbers. And think of it, where Apple's at 500 billion, as I said, but they always used to spend their money in China. Now they're spending it here. That means they're gonna go, now, they don't have any tariffs. Remember, there are no tariffs if you do your product here, if you build whatever it is in the USA. One of the things we're also trying to get is if you buy a car that was built in the USA, you get a deduction on interest. So if you go out and borrow money to buy a car, if it's built in the USA, never been done before, it's a big deduction for people that really aren't used to deductions, frankly, because people that buy cars like that are not big into the world of deductions, and now they're going to learn about deductions. So I think it's going to be great. Yeah.
Are you going to go universal tariff or different individual tariff rates on a whole variety of different?
Well, you're going to see in 2 days, which is maybe tomorrow night or probably Wednesday. You're going to see, and they're reciprocal. So whatever they charge us, we charge them, but we're being nicer than they were. We have a lot of countries, friend and foe. I always say friend and foe, but the friend in many cases is worse than the foe. They took advantage of us, and we are going to be very nice by comparison to what they were. The numbers will be lower than what they've been charging us, and in some cases maybe substantially lower, but we sort of have a world obligation perhaps. But we're going to be very nice. Relatively speaking, we're going to be very kind. Somebody said that about me the other day. They said, who doesn't know me very well, they said, you're such a kind person. And I said, say that again. They said, you're a kind person. I said, I'd never heard that before. It was a weird statement. I was kind. I've heard of words that, I don't know, I better not tell you. You know, I've been called a lot of things, but it's sort of a different kind of a word. It's like an old-fashioned word, isn't it?
Mr. President, you met with the chairman of Stellantis today. Did he ask you for a pause on the auto tariffs?
No.
What was that meeting about?
Just about some of the problems they have with the environmental, which we're going to clean up.
Have any of the automakers?
We're going to probably go back to 1926. If you look, we're going to go back probably to a 2020 standard. So we'll have 2020 standard, and that's just a few years ago. Oh, they're making it so difficult. All over the world they're making it. It doesn't mean a damn bit of difference either for the environment. It doesn't matter. They make it impossible for people to build cars. So we're going to be doing much different. 2020 is a strong standard. but they've taken it to a level now that, you know, makes it very difficult to build a car. So we're going to be bringing it back to a standard that is a very good environmental standard, but it makes it possible to build a car.
Have you heard any concerns from the automakers, though, about the tariffs on parts that will go into effect over the coming weeks? About what that's going to mean for the price of
Well, I gave them a big break for a month. I didn't charge them anything, you know, for a big month, for that first month. And they brought a lot of material into this country because they could bring it in without tariff. If you look at Canada and Mexico, they were driving hundreds of thousands of cars into the market because they avoid the tariffs by doing it before the tariffs go on, which would be Wednesday. And I saw some of your shows where cars are lined up for miles and miles. Some of them didn't have fenders on them. Some of them didn't have the roof on yet. They're driving it in brand new. They're driving it in because they want to avoid the tariffs. I let them have that. They sort of took advantage of it because, you know, that wasn't part of the deal, but that's okay. They're great American car companies, and so I gave them a little break on that. You know.
Are there any countries that you're not targeting on Wednesday?
Well, it depends. You know, I said it's reciprocal. Not everybody has made a fortune, but almost everybody has, but not everybody. And the ones that haven't, we're going to be very nice to them.
And on a separate issue,
Because that word reciprocal is very important. What they do to us, we do to them. Okay.
Can I just ask you briefly on President Putin? You said over the weekend, or indicated over the weekend, some frustration with him. How serious are you about imposing oil sanctions?
No, I want to see him make a deal so that we stop Russian soldiers and Ukrainian soldiers and other people from being killed. But mostly it's Russian and Ukrainian soldiers. They're losing at least 2,500 human beings, beautiful human beings, a week. And I want it to stop. And some people would say, why do you worry about Russian soldiers and Ukrainian soldiers? I worry because it's like, they're just like you people, they're like us, they're like all of us. And I seem to have an ability to do those things, and if I can do that, I think it's a very worthwhile thing to do. And I think we will. No, I want to make sure that he follows through, and I think he will. I don't want to go secondary tariffs on his oil, but I think, you know, something I would do if I thought he wasn't doing the job. I did it with Venezuela, secondary tariffs, and you know what happened? Every boat left the harbor. Did you see that? It was a beautiful thing to see. The whole harbor emptied out. My words weren't even finished. I have these massive ships. They're actually taking the hoses and dumping them into there. They couldn't get out of there fast enough because they know I don't play games. So I think he's going to live up to what he told me, and I think he's going to fulfill his part of the deal. Now, then you have Zelensky, and hopefully he's going to live up. I see he's trying to renegotiate the rare earth. You know, we did something because, as you know, the Europeans get paid back the money that they gave, and we don't, because Biden is an incompetent president. And he should have asked for rare earth, or he should have asked for the loans to be guaranteed in some form. That's what Europe did. Europe is in for probably $100 billion. And we're in for $350 billion. So we're in for more than 3 times. And now you could make it a little bit less than that, but it doesn't matter, whatever the number. We're in for substantially more than Europe. We could be in for $350 billion. They have no idea because Biden wasn't a good bookkeeper except for himself. And what happens is we made a deal for rare earth. It was all done. And I heard through you, I haven't spoken to them yet, but through you I heard that they're now saying, well, I'll only do that deal if we get into NATO or something to that effect. Well, that was never, number one, discussed. Number two, I think it's going to be very long before Putin. They said you're not going into NATO. And it could be, that's probably the reason the war started, actually.
Yeah, how was the way a very special election? Wisconsin and Florida, want to share your thoughts on Republican voters? Not sleep on this. It's a very important race to judge.
You know, it's a big race, Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. It's taking place essentially as you know, it's early voting, so we'll see what happens. It's a big race. I love Wisconsin. We won Wisconsin. Republicans typically don't do very well in Wisconsin, but I did. I actually won it twice. I actually probably won it 3 times to be exact. Not probably, I won it 3 times. We had a rigged election the second time, but that's, you know, one of those things. We had to make this one too big to rig. as each, would you agree with that, Brian? Too big to read? So anyway, but, yeah, there's a big race, and I hope you get out or vote for the Republican. The woman is a radical left lunatic, and, let's see who wins, but, the woman will be very bad, and, you know, Wisconsin's a big state politically, and the Supreme Court has a lot to do with elections in Wisconsin, so if whoever it is that's running, including, you know, even Senate races, et cetera, but whoever it is in 4 years that runs, having Wisconsin is a very big, we won it early and big, but winning Wisconsin's a big deal. So therefore, the Supreme Court choice is the one you're talking about right now. It's a big race. It's going to be announced fairly shortly.
Big week deadline, we got Liberation Day, and then TikTok deadline.
Yeah, which I can extend if I want, but we have a lot of enthusiasm for TikTok for buying it. I think TikTok is good. I used it I was a great TikTok guy, and we won by 36 points, the youth. You know, we won the youth, which Republicans don't do. Maybe it's because Kid Rock likes Trump, I don't know, but we won the youth by 36 points, and I attribute some of that to TikTok.
Is the TikTok deal, negotiations now, tied to a bigger tariff deal with China?
No, but you know, it could be. I mean, you know, I've used tariffs for lots of different reasons, but I could see, you know, 1 point in tariffs with China, a big country, would be probably worth more than all of TikTok, as valuable as TikTok is, it's fixed up. So there's a great example. That's a great question, actually. I'm a very flexible person. I could use that for that. Like, maybe I'll take a couple of points off if I get approvals for something. I haven't done it. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. It's a very good question. Peter, you're very good.
Thank you. You'll love this one. It's not a frontation, but I'm just curious. What is your thought about Tiger Woods now becoming part of the broader Trump family?
Well, I love Tiger, and I love Vanessa, and they had a great relationship. I happen to think the relationship with my son, I happen to think the relationship was hurt very badly by the witch hunt that went on, Russia, and all the crap that they put Don through, who knew nothing about it. But Vanessa and Don had a very good relationship. They have incredible children, 5 incredible children, all good athletes, all great students who I think. And they broke up, you know, quite a while ago, and which was to be very sad, because I think they're both great. Don and Vanessa. And Tiger actually called me a few months ago, and they have a very special, very good relationship with Tiger. I played golf with him a couple of times over the last month, and he's a fantastic guy and a fantastic athlete, and he told me about it, and I said, Tiger, I'm very happy for both. I just let them both be happy. Let them both be happy. They're both great.
China, South Korea, and Japan say they're going to work together in cooperation to respond to the tariffs that you're going to put into effect this week. Are you concerned that this move, the tariffs this week, could push some of the United States' closest allies to work with China?
No, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. Yeah.
Mr. President, can I ask you
I
about
think they have a
something?
chance of doing better, actually, with the tariffs. It can actually help them in a certain way. And I think a lot of them will drop their tariffs, because, you know, they've been unfairly tariffed the United States for years. And if you look at the European Union on cars, the European Union already dropped their tariff down to 2.5%. It was announced a couple of days ago, which is what which is a very small tariff. The United States charged very little. And I think I heard that India just a little while ago is going to be dropping its tariffs very substantially. And I said, why didn't somebody do this a long time ago? A lot of countries are going to be dropping their tariffs.
And also, what happened in France today, Mr. President, an independent far-right leader got convicted in court and is now banned from running for office for 5 years. Do you have a comment?
That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. I know all about it, and a lot of people thought she wasn't going to be convicted of anything, and I don't know if it means conviction, but she was banned for running for 5 years, and she's the leading candidate. That sounds like this country. That sounds very much like this country. Okay, anybody else?
You presented a bunch of proposals for tariffs by your advisors that you talked about.
And who?
Yeah, your advisors have presented ideas
They did.
about tariffs and what to do in the next 2 days. Have you settled
What you're gonna see, I've settled, yeah, well, actually a long time ago. But we talk about it. We talk about it a lot. And we wanna do what's right for the country and even the world. It affects the world, not just this country. This has been the piggy bank of the entire world. So it really does affect the world, and that's important to me also, yeah.
Mr. President, in the past you have said that you want the quick return of Austin Tice, a Marine Corps veteran and a journalist who went missing in Syria over 12 years ago. Have efforts been made to locate Austin Tice been extended beyond Syria, including potential leads in Iran? And do you have plans to get in touch with Miss Deborah Tice, the mother of Mr. Austin Tice? And also at the same time, organizations like Hostage Aid Worldwide have been on the ground in Syria searching for Austin Tice for many years. Can I get your comment on the potential future plans to locate Austin Tice and to bring him home finally?
So we've been looking, as you know, for Austin for years. I don't know about Biden, I don't think Biden was looking for anything, but we were. And there's been virtually no sign, you know that. There's been no sign of Austin. An incredible young guy. Be less young now. It's been a long time. It's been many, many years. The mother is fantastic. She's a very committed mother that her whole life is to find her son who was in Syria and just disappeared off the face of the earth. So, you know, a lot of bad things happen. But we're always, you know, we will never, until we find out something definitive, one way or the other, we'll never stop looking for it. But we have been, and the response, it's just a lot of dead ends. It's been done for a long time. The problem is there's never been a sighting. You know, sometimes you'll have somebody you're looking for and there's a sighting, and there's never been a sighting of Austin. But we are out there, and we have great respect for his family and for his mother. She's been unbelievable. Yeah, there's a question about it. You go on.
Yes, you had outreach with the leaders of Russia and China. You made an outreach to Iran. When are you going to plan to reach out to North Korea and Kim Jong-un? Anytime in the near future?
Well, I do. I have a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. You people hate to hear that, but it's very important. I got along with him fantastically, as you know. It started off very rough, very nasty. Little rocket man, the whole thing was a nasty deal. And then one day we got a call that they'd like to meet. We met. We have a great relationship. And yeah, we have, there is communication. Yeah. I think it's very important. There is a big nuclear nation. And he's a very smart guy. I got to know him very well. I put my foot across the line and then I walked across the line. I don't know if Secret Service was thrilled with that. They actually wasn't. They were not too thrilled. But I have a very good relationship with him. Yeah, we'll probably do something at some point. Yeah, please.
Who's on your short list, Mr. President, to replace Lisa Pike as U.S. Ambassador to the UN?
So we have a lot of good people that want it. First of all, Lisa's fantastic, and I just don't want to take chances where you guys say, how was the election going? We have a congressional election. It's a little bit close. I guess the one is in good shape, but the other one's a little bit close. But Randy Fine is a great guy. They're both good candidates. They're very good. But it's, you know, a little bit, we want to be careful. And Lisa's very popular in her district, and so am I. We won by a lot of points, and so did she. And there's a lot of people that wanted to run for it, but we have no idea are they going to win. I think it's just security, and I said, at least, what about going back? Because they love you there, and she's going to take a big leadership position with Mike Johnson and the group speaker. And I can tell you that for the replacement, we have a lot of people that have asked about it, and would like to do it. David Friedman, Rick Grinnell, and maybe 30 other people. Everyone loves that position. It's a star-making position. And so we'll see what happens. But we have a lot of people that are interested in going to the United Nations, as you can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, music question. Favorite song to play live is what? And then my question for you, Mr. President, your favorite rally you did last year, 2024. What was your favorite one?
Favorite song to play live?
Yeah, favorite song to play live.
So
there's a song that I play every night that was never a single hit that I promise you not to say the words to. In this office right now. You never met us.
Yeah, that's right. His rabbits are amazing. He does great, and he gets big crowds. He's really a star when it comes to that. He is a very talented guy. I would say maybe Madison Square Garden, because anybody that was there, the owner of the garden, Jim Dolan, is, to me, always been terrific. He said this, he's never seen anything like it. We had, when you announced Madison Square Garden, yeah, it's a big arena, but we sell out of big arenas. We sold out in Milwaukee, we sold out in every big arena. We never had empty seats. It's amazing. They talk about Bernie Sanders gets 2,000 to 3,000 people. I said, these crowds, I get 107,000 people in New Jersey. In Butler, PA, we had over 100,000 the second time. We had 55,000 the first time. We have big crowds. I would say Madison Square Garden, because I grew up in New York and the garden is great. Jim Dolan treated us well, but everybody said that, because I think I could have filled it up 10 times. We had hundreds of thousands of people that were stacked all the way back to the Hudson River and on the other direction, back to Fifth Avenue. Nobody's ever seen, I don't mean with a line, I mean like 50 deep, like 50 deep this way. The streets were closed, the whole thing, it was crazy. And when you take that, you want to do well at Madison Square Garden. You don't want to have empty seats. But we could have sold it out, Brian, 10 times, and everybody knew it. And I think we got a good indication that that's where the election was going. And we won every swing state, and we won by millions of votes. It was a great election. Yeah.
President, the U.S. military transferred 17 individuals to El Salvador overnight. Did you discuss with your team whether these deportations would run afoul of any recent court orders?
No, I do want to thank, however, the president. He has been unbelievable, and in relation to us. But I think that our people have done an incredible job. I got elected on the basis of getting bad people out of our country that shouldn't be here, very dangerous people out of our country, and that's what I did. And then you have a judge that wants to take over. I can't imagine it can be allowed. It was up to him that all be put back in our country. These are killers. These are drug lords. These are really bad people. But I want to thank the president of El Salvador, because he's done an amazing job. Yeah.
Elon Musk's special government tenure is coming to an end, 130 days at the end of the month. Do you want him to stay longer, or is it time for him to go back to run his companies?
Well, I think he's amazing, but I also think he's got a big company to run, and so at some point he's going to be going back. He wants to, but I keep him as long as I can keep him. He's a very talented guy. I love very smart people, and he's very smart, and he's done a good job. Doge is, we found numbers that nobody can even believe, like 400 billion, 500 billion, it could be close to $1 trillion by the time they end on different things. And he's led the charge, and you've seen a lot of his people, and these are people that joined up. I would say they're high IQ people. I like high IQ people. And they've done a great job. Now, at some point, Elon's going to want to go back to his company. I will say, he's got, despite the way he's been treated, so he's an American patriot, but the way he's been treated with Tesla is just terrible. It's just terrible. In fact, you have a Tesla, and you love it. He was saying before, on a Tesla, a lot of people are buying Teslas, I think, and I hope they are. He should not be treated that way. He's done an incredible service.
What's the effect of these Doge operating even without him on here?
Well, I can't tell you that. I can say this, that a lot of the people that are working with Doge are the secretaries, the heads of the various agencies, and they've learned a lot, and they're dealing with the Doge people. I think some of them may try and keep the Doge people with them, but, at a certain point, I think it will end. But they have also gotten a big education, and they're doing a really good job. There'll be a point at which the secretaries will be able to do this work and do it very, as we say, with the scalpel. And that's what we want. Yeah, Jim?
Have you heard any updates on the U.S. soldiers that are missing?
I have. So 3 are no longer with us, and 1 is unfortunately probably in the same category, but they haven't declared that yet. It was a very heavy truck, like a toy, but I mean, really heavy. It lifted the heaviest equipment. And it would seem that the bank of the lake collapsed. You know, the weight is so big. And it was at night, and it was very cold weather, ice, a lot of ice. And it's possibly slipped, and the weight is so enormous of this thing. It's a massively heavy vehicle. And if they slipped a little bit, that's probably what happened, and it flipped. And 3 are gone, and 1 is missing.
Separate topic, follow-up on immigration. Did you see the video of a Tufts University student who was taken off the street by ICE agents last week in hoodies and masks? There's been a lot of criticism of that. Are you comfortable with how that was handled?
Well, I haven't really looked at it in any detail, but I will. I mean, I have seen it quickly, but not, I wouldn't want to comment, but yeah, but
President, would you be able to confirm recent reporting that you are making plans to go to Saudi Arabia next month? And if so, why is Saudi Arabia so important?
So, I have a very good relationship with the Middle East. In fact, if you look at Michigan, I won the vote by a lot. People were a little surprised. And I have a very good relationship with Mohammed and the king. Son is Mohammed. He's great. Crown Prince, actually he's Prime Minister too. He's got a lot of good titles. But he's great. And the king has been wonderful. And if you remember last time I went to Saudi Arabia, I put him first on the list because they agreed to buy $450 billion worth of American goods, military and otherwise. And they did, and it was an unbelievable day. It was in this gorgeous ballroom, and companies were there from many, probably 100 companies, and they were given anywhere from $40 or $50 million to less, and more actually. Okay, some of them were given numbers that were just many times that amount. I think we had a couple of $20 billion deals, big stuff. And it's a very rich country because of oil, and we are a very rich country ultimately when we straighten out because of oil. But oil is always good. And I agreed to do it again, and they've agreed to spend close to $1 trillion of money in our American companies, which to me means jobs. So they're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars and giving them to American companies that are going to be making equipment for Saudi Arabia and other places in the Middle East. And for that, I think it's worth it. I did it last time, $450 billion, and the press was there. It was one of the most unique days I've ever seen, where companies would get up and you're getting $20 billion to name the company, and the chairman were all there, every chairman and top person in the company. You remember that, Peter? I don't know if you were there. You might be too young for that.
I was on the Democratic campaign trail.
Before, this was a much better deal. But it was amazing, actually. It was an amazing day. We sold and we partook in $450 billion worth of investment into American companies. And they announced the company, the amount of money, $1 billion, $5 billion, $25 billion. And the chairman of the company, many of whom, you know, well-known figures, prestigious figures, great business legacy, went up, they shook the hand of somebody, and they would sit down, and we just had a big investment made. So it was a record. Nobody ever beat it before. $450 billion worth of jobs. I view it as jobs more than anything else. And now we're close to $1 trillion, so it's more than double the number that we did when I first came to office.
It'll take place next month.
It could be next month, maybe a little bit later, yeah. And we're going to Qatar also. And also we're going to possibly a couple of other countries. UAE is very important. It's a great leader in UAE. And I had his brother here the other night, if you saw that. We had a wonderful guy, a wonderful family. So we'll probably stop at UAE and Qatar. And as I used to go in Qatar, nobody's ever told me right or wrong. I always like to say Qatar, but it's Qatar. They like to say Qatar. And Saudi Arabia, the 3 of them, and then we'll go other places also. But in the Middle East, those seem to be the 3. And again, tremendous amounts of jobs will be created in those 2 or 3 days. Thank you very much, everybody.
And with that, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream right there. Liar in chief, what? Come on, don't say that. I appreciate you guys joining in, guys. I know today's a Saturday, it's a weekend. You guys could have been anywhere else, but you chose to come and sit with me. I watch these programs, like I really don't talk, but I just kind of just watch and let the comment does his thing. At the end and beginning, I like to give my 2 cents. And I don't know if a lot of you realize it, but obviously I'm a Republican. I'm a Trump supporter. And in general, I support anyone that has America's interests at heart. I don't care if it's Democratic or Republican, if it's Trump or Kamala. The reason why I didn't vote Democratic was obviously Democrats don't like our country. They don't like our people. They tax the hell out of us and give it to other countries. And, you know, Trump, sometimes he's a little bit hyperbole, you know, if some of you guys understand that, I mean, he's a little bit, you know, over the top and eccentric sometimes, but the bottom line is, it is true what he's saying. Other countries don't treat us well, and the United States has been a piggy bank for a lot of other countries, and that can't be fair, because that piggy bank is your money. It's my money. It's money that comes out of my pocket. Think about how hard it is for you to get up and how early you have to get up in the mornings to take your kids to school, how late you go at night, prepping to go to work, if you have to go to school and work, and then you're getting taxed. When you get your paycheck, that tax money is doing so much things. School fee, car payment, insurance, food, light, water, internet, supplies for your kids. And then when they tax that money, you know, at the end of the day, when you need help, it's almost impossible to get. If you make enough money and you're struggling, you don't get any help from the government. You know, there's a lot of people in our country that they don't really do that much for our country in terms of put into the system, but they get a lot. And we're not really talking about them. We're just talking about in general where, you know, you work your ass off, pardon my French, and you can't even afford to you can't even afford to take a vacation. How many Americans, you know, that work their asses off? And I'm not talking about all these people that are going to Coachella who can't even afford it. I'm talking everyday Americans that work their butts off, right? And they can't even afford to take a vacation. I remember there's a point in my life when I was married, when I was the only one taking care of the bills. And I remember when I was married for about 2 to 3 years, I wasn't able to take a vacation because I was paying the bills by myself. I was doing every single thing. I was buying food, everything, you know, for me and my wife. I was taking care of the household for everything. Anything that popped up, any AC that was broken, anything on the car that needed to be fixed, either car, mine or hers, I was the one taking care of it. And I had no help, you know, and all that taxes that they take. I mean, I remember when Barack Obama, that was around the time when Barack Obama was in his 8-year stretch as the president, and it wasn't that great. I don't know why everybody thinks that, you know, Barack Obama is this great president. He was not. He was very mediocre. But, you know, people thought that, you know, because he was black and he was this and was that, you know, he catered to the interests of the rich and wealthy than the common folks. And, you know, and people know that in the back of their minds. They know that the people that are pro-Obama, they know that, but they just don't want to admit it to themselves. People like to put themselves in delusion, you know, and that's just what it is. I'm a realist and I live in the real world. No matter how hard something may seem, I'm going to tell it to myself. And I'm going to get to a point where, hey, listen, accept this or move along. You know, and I remember when Barack Obama was in power, you know, and I remember if you didn't have insurance and you lived with and you were married, and because a lot of people, they don't have insurance. For me, at that time, I never had insurance because I used to live close to this place where it's like a health center. And the health center, you would pay like $25, you go in, and it was very good. They had great doctors, great nurses. They have a dental plan there. If you didn't have money, you could just, you know, pay a fraction of what you pay. They do the dental work for you. And I never needed insurance. But Barack Obama, because I didn't have insurance, you know, he took $600 per person. You know, I know, and then a lot of you guys are watching this can remember that. He had taken $600 per person when you did your taxes. So if me and my wife didn't have health insurance, it would be $1,200. So after working all the years and looking, you know, a lot of people, they look forward to their tax returns to, you know, buy a new car, pay down on furniture, pay off credit cards, whatever the case might be. And it was no different for me, you know. And so for literally for 6 years, he was doing that, and I never had insurance, because even if I had insurance, if I was to get insurance for me and my wife at the time, it would have cost, you know, way more than he would have taken from insurance, because to get insurance for both of us would have been easily, you know, $300 to $400 a month. You know what I mean? And that's 12 months. You know, so I would have rather just pay, you know, the $600 per person than pay, you know, $400 a month. You know, so I don't think that the Democratic Party has ever really looked out for the American people, and I think the fact that President Trump is president right now and he has the Doge with him, I think that exposes a lot of the shortcomings of the Democratic Party and a lot of the abuse that they've been imposing on the American people. And I think it is abuse, you know, because you're taking our money, and like President Trump said in the video you just watched, you know, other countries have been taxing us ridiculously, and they don't pay anything. America has been the world's piggy bank. You know, there's Europeans who've been rich off of America. And even with, you know, Social Security, where they have all these people that, you know, that have been dead for years, people who are not even born yet, who are getting Social Security. Who's paying that out? Who's paying that? That's your money and my money that we've been paying into the system. Get up one day and you can't pay your mortgage or your rent, and go to the government and say, hey, listen, Mr. Government, I can't pay my mortgage or my rent or send my kid to college. Can you give me $10,000 or $20,000 or $50,000 this year to cover me? No, they're going to say no. If you go to a bank, they're going to say no. But yet still they take your hard-earned tax money and they give it to people who've been dead for years. And you think Social Security doesn't know that that's going on? You know what I mean? I've never been on food stamps or anything like that, but they do a background check. They have to talk to you. They have to speak to you on the phone. So how is it that they're sending money to people who've been dead for 150 years? I don't get that. They know about it. It's a lot of corruption. It's a lot of money hiding and money laundering through the government. And I love what President Trump is doing, but, you know, enough with the talking and finding all the money. When are you going to start, like, indicting people? I feel like if you're stealing money, willingly stealing money from the federal government, right? You can call it lies. I see people in the comments saying, oh, this is lies. I was lies. These are the people that don't want to believe. These are the people that if we were enslaved, they'll be in sympathy with our enslavers. That's how people think. That when they present facts to you, they call it lies, but yet still they don't have anything to detract those facts. You know what I mean? Doge is exposing all these people, these African Americans, these Democratic people. It's all lies. Look at the Black Lives Matter movement. Look how much money that woman garnered for Black Lives Matter. What did she do with it? Is that more lies too? Because that's a fact. You know what I mean? She took that money, bought a big house, went on vacation. It didn't go to Black Lives Matter. It went to their pockets. A lot of these politicians, they go into politics not having a dime. They don't even own their own houses. And before the end of their career, not even a year or two in their career, they're multimillionaires. How? That, like the other day when this black politician, when she was saying, oh, $5,000 can't do anything for the average American. And they were like, what are you talking about? Then they start looking through her finances. And she's worth over what? Almost $5 million, and she just became a politician. How so? Where did she get that money from? You know where she got that money from? You and me. They're siphoning money off, and that's why they didn't want President Trump to win this year, because they knew it was going to come to an end. They knew he was going to expose them. They knew that they were going to be in deep trouble. You know what I mean? And I don't see how you can sympathize with people that steal from you. They steal from America, but they steal from you because that's your tax dollars. You know what I mean? And so, guys, anyway, with that said, I'm not going to get into a long, deep discussion. Normally, when I do videos like this, I like to put my 2 cents in. But again, you know, President Trump signed, you know, he signed a bunch of executive orders, and they're not laws just yet. They're like the precursors to the laws that are coming. And I appreciate the fact that our president is trying to touch all aspects of our communities, our lives. And yes, government should have a limited approach, but a lot of things, government should have a lot of approach. especially when it comes to, you know, to letting kids want to change their sex at a young age. A kid doesn't know if he wants to be a boy or a girl at that age. I remember when I was a child and I grew up in Jamaica, man, I was in love with older women. Oh man, when I was a kid, I used to, I used to love older women, as does most kids our age. You know, especially if you're from the Caribbean, or you know, you grew up and you see a teacher. Everybody fantasized that teacher is going to be your girlfriend. It's just a stupid fantasy. And when I was a kid, I remember I met this one lady, man, and she was like 25 and I was like 18. And I was so in love with her, man. I said, man, that's gonna be my girl. And I remember I was going out with her. And in Jamaica, the age of consent is not, you know, it's not like 19 or 20. I think in Jamaica, age of consent is like 17 or something like that. You know, so we don't have the same laws as in Jamaica. As with a lot of countries, age of consent is not 19 or 20 years old. It's a lot lower. In some countries in Europe, age of consent is like 15, 16. I might not agree with it, but it is what it is. And you know, when I was a kid, you know, I was in love with older women, and it's just what it is, you know. And one second, guys. Hey, what you doing? I apologize, guys. I have a new dog. I have a Belgian Malinois, and he chews on everything. He's always doing something. So every time I'm doing something and I don't see him look at me, because he's always staring at me. If I don't see him looking at me, I know he's out there doing some kind of chewing business. So I kind of have to, like, you know, get up and look some point in time. Anyways, yeah. So guys, I totally forgot my thought, but with that said, guys, I appreciate you guys coming in and joining the live. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate all of you guys. Again, you guys could have been anywhere else. You could have been anywhere doing anything, and you guys chose to come in and sit in with me and show your love and support, and for that, thank you guys very much. Come with the truth. Okay, I will work on that, my friend, but I still appreciate you, though. Thanks for the comment, man. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Yep, MAGA out.